I recently beat, as you can see, from my great, super cool, fancy weapon. We're not starting soon. We've started. Let me just go ahead and zoop. I've completed Dragon Song's Reprise Ultimate in Final Fantasy XIV Online, Endwalker. I had to think about when this came out because it was intended to come out in Shadowbringers. And if it had, I probably would have done it then, but it didn't come out until Endwalker, and by then I just burnt out and retired. As I am wont to do whenever I beat an ultimate fight, I just want to do a stream just talking about the fight and explaining to those who don't know what is happening in it, because it is a visual mess, what exactly is going on. I know anyone could just go watch a guide if they really cared. There's lots of other people who have broken it down probably a lot better and a lot clearer than I will, but I'm just here to have fun with my friends. I just spent 60 hours in instance trying to beat this fight. I just want to talk about it. Yeah, I can zoom in on it. Hold on. Zoop, 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 zoop. It's so cool. I actually really like the effect on this weapon. So before we get into the fight proper, there are two things that I want to discuss first. One, as I've just said, I've done this for all the other ultimate fights I've beaten. I've done this for the Epic of Alexander. I've done it for Ultimate Weapon Ultimate, and I've done it for Unending Coil of Bahamut. And when I did this for Unending Coil of Bahamut, UCOB, I opened the video by saying, I really did not like that fight. It was way too hard. It was janky and broken. And I didn't like it. I want to correct that statement because it turns out that fight's actually super fun. At the time, I didn't realize at the time, but at the time, I was just experiencing a lot of like burnout, a lot of pressure to just beat that fight, just because I wanted to prove myself. I was jealous of my friends who had also beaten it, but I yet had not. And I wanted to beat it before the raid tier came out, because we were doing it in the forever tier, between E8 and E9. I was just under a lot of pressure to get that thing done, and I wasn't having a good time. But after having retired at the start of Endwalker, I have had the opportunity and pleasure to go back into UCOB a couple of times for funsies with friends. And let me tell you, when you're not under pressure to have that fight beaten in a certain amount of time, and you don't care because you've already beaten it before, and you're just here to experience some janky nonsense because you're a little bit tired of how smooth and frictionless Final Fantasy XIV has gotten, let me tell you, that fight's a hoot. When you see Ten Strike go back and forth, it's just funny. It's no longer aggravating when it's like, that was supposed to be the clear. We're going to beat that fight. When you see the orbs go back and forth, the hatch, and it just blows up in your face, you're like, Yuka, my old friend, where have you been? Call it Stockholm Syndrome, whatever you want. I don't know. I had a good time. I just realized I should double check that all my appropriate audio sources are coming through. Excellent. And I'm not just saying that to rectify an old thing that I said. I've just looked it up. Shit, that was like 5 years ago. Oh my God, time flies. I cannot believe it's been 5 years since I did UCOB. But I say this because DSR is actually going to pull on UCOB a little bit. And I wanted to correct myself for when you get to the parts of DSR that reference UCOB, and I go, I love that. That's so funny and cute. I'm not going to have people going, but you hated that fight. Yeah, I did, but I don't anymore. It's awesome. Second thing I want to talk about real quick is if you have ever played, Final Fantasy in general, but particularly Gunbreaker, if you watch my gameplay in this, you're going to think I'm a fucking moron. If you don't know anything about Ultimate Fights and you're just like looking at my rotation and you're seeing me like not do burst windows, you're seeing me just spam my AoE combo when there's only one boss in front of me, if you see me just like not attacking the boss at all, you're going to think, who's this idiot and how did he ever beat this fight? Ultimate Fights are a different beast. They're just so different. You don't understand. If you're doing like an extreme or a savage fight in Final Fantasy XIV, the sooner you kill the boss, the sooner the fight is over and you're done, you get your reward, you move on with your life. That is not the case in an Ultimate. The sooner you kill a boss, the sooner the second boss immediately shows up and starts doing their nonsense. So there's a lot of points in this fight where I'm like holding back just to make sure that we don't kill the thing too fast. So that way, when the next boss shows up, we have all of our important buttons, like my burst, like specific bits of mitigation that I want available at certain times. Just making sure that they all come back in time. So just bear with if if you're wondering. To be clear, if you look me up on FF logs, I got a big fat fucking 0 for a parse on this fight, and I don't care. You know what they call someone who's beaten DSR and with a 0 parse? They call them a Heaven's Legend. Who gives a shit? Especially doing this off patch, especially doing this one off patch when there's less people doing it, and especially doing it right after a patch. By the time I beat this fight, there's literally only one other person who beat Gunbreaker, or beat this fight on Gunbreaker on 7.3. So there's literally only one other person to compare me to, and they did better than me. So I did the worst out of the both of us, and I got a 0. Who cares? Anyway, that's just a lot of preamble I think is interesting and just wanted to talk about. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and mute this game as I bring up... Where's my... Oh, right. The OBS... I already got so used to staring at the OBS window all the way over here, like I originally had it. And I was like, where did my OBS window go? Oh, I was staring directly at it because I moved things around. I need to mute the game. I need to bring up this, and I'm going to start some music. I like to play the music of the phases in the background as I'm going through these. Some of the songs in this start very quiet and end very loud, so I erred on the side of having it be quiet, just so I don't have to audio balance in the middle of stream. So apologies in advance, Dragon Song lovers. If we get to that phase and you can barely hear the music, just give it a minute. Just give it a minute. To start things off, we start with, let me make sure VLC is muted so you don't hear my actual in-game audio. We start with the Vault. This is a very narrative-driven ultimate. It's actually one of the reasons I actually really enjoyed this fight. I didn't actually talk about this. I loved this fight. It was awesome. Even as someone who's not a big story fan in Final Fantasy XIV, just the way I think they tell it is very arduous and slow. Not important. Just weaving a narrative into an ultimate fight makes it feel so much more fun than just a boss rush, you know? I mean, it is still a boss rush, but there's a story being told, and that's pretty great. You know, we're here in... Where is... I actually got a fun little tool for this, too. I can... Oh. It's not showing up on screen. Hold on. Click. There we go. I can draw. Woo! Hello! This is the Vault. We all know it. We all love it. There's Thordan, ready to run away. We've got our 2 Temple Knights. This is the door boss. We're only going to be seeing this once. Well, twice. Well, that's complicated. So, the way this is going to start is there's 2 bosses and there's 2 tanks. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Adelfell. My co-tank is going to take Grino. And we're going to pull them both directly into the center. Just so everyone can hit both bosses. Simple stuff right out the gate. Pull them together so that people who have AoE abilities can innately hit both bosses. One of them is going to start casting Holiest of Holy. This is just a raid-wide. Shield and heal as needed. A few seconds in, one of them, Grino, is going to start casting Empty Dimension. What this is it is a donut. It's actually fairly tight, so you want to be kind of close, like the party's just kind of stacking over here. Everything outside of this is just death. Don't be outside. At the same time, you can't really see, but Adelfell, he shoots a tether backwards. It starts pointing at one of the non-tanks, so one of the tanks has to go around, pick up the tether, come back and bring it up front, because when this goes off, it's going to be like a... It has an AoE effect. And it is a tank buster. He's going to invuln it. At the same time, you can kind of see Cherubert up here is also casting Heavens blaze. Oh shit. In some mechanics, I may need to consider moving my webcam because my party list kind of like drifts down in here, and we may I may be covering up some cast bar names. Who knows? This Heavens Blaze is just a party stack. I just stack with the party and share it with them. We continue to hit the bosses. A little bit afterwards, Adelfell will jump away. As this happens, Grano is going to target 4 people. Where are they? Okay, I'm going to spin the camera around. He targets 4 people with this marker. Zoop, zoop. What this is it's going to be a giant laser shooting at each of these 4 people. So they need to spread out to not clip each other. This laser also does something else, but we'll get to that. Everyone else needs to stack behind him because I believe he will target randomly one of the non-targeted people with the lasers. One of these 4 people will randomly get a giant cone that needs to be shared with the rest of the party. Oop, forgot to. So those all go off. The other 4 people are going to get that giant laser, and we just, on the other end of the, like, we just reverse what we were doing. Those of us who were stacked together now spread out. Those who were spread out now stacked together. So you may see that those lasers weren't just lasers. They also opened these, like, portals. If you've done the vault, you may remember these. If these are placed too close together, they will tether together and they will explode. It'll wipe the whole party. Also, from here on out, if anyone gets too close to a portal, like if someone walks over here, the portal is going to reach out with like a tendril, zap them. If they're not a tank, probably kill them. If they are a tank, they may live, but they're going to have a damage down. And the damage downs across this entire ultimate are brutal. If you have a damage down and you have a window to just kill yourself and get resurrected, take it, because otherwise you may not be meeting the damage checks. After a couple seconds, you'll see ahead of time in my mini-map, little red dot. Adelfell has come back. He'll jump back into any of the 4 cardinal directions, so we can either land north, south, east, or west. In this case, he landed on the east. We put ourselves on the other side of the boss, of the other side of Grino. Grino is going to start casting a knockback. Because there are now portals all around the arena that can just like zap and kill you. This isn't hard required, but it is highly recommended that you use arm's length or short cast to cancel the knockback. You don't have to. You can get knocked between them and probably be fine. I always just, arm's length is free. Just press it. Adelfell is also casting Holy So Holy. Again, this is the raid wide. He will also do something after this. He's going to look. It happened very quickly. He's either going to look to the left or he's going to look to the right. In this case, he happened to look to the left. I'll rewind it real quick, and you can kind of see him turn. Zoop. It happens really quick. But what he's going to do is, if he, in this case, he looked to the left, he's going to zigzag in a Z pattern. He's going to go from north, well, relative north. This is east. So he's going from east to north. Then he's going to go from there all the way across. And then he's going to go from there all the way diagonally this way. And as this is going off, giant AoEs are appearing where he dashed. If you remember the vault, there's like these light orbs. They all explode. Oh, yeah. Then he also goes back up to where he started. And the way you dodge this, if you think about it for a second, I mean, this direction is unsafe. This direction is unsafe. This direction is unsafe. And we're all down here. So we can't go this way. We can't go this way. We have to go this way, into this kind of safe area. The way you identify this is there are these points on the ground. If you stand directly on this point, you're not close enough to these portals to get zapped, and you'll dodge all of the light orbs that show up. So we all go here. I break away from the rest of the party because Adelfell is not done. He's going to, because I was the one who established aggro on him, he's going to jump on me with a giant tank buster. I've used an invuln to get around this. I bring it away from the party. If I brought it into the party, everyone would be dead. He's now going to start casting Holiest Hallowing. I just want to check myself real quick. Holiest Hallowing. Yeah, okay. This is basically clemency. If this goes off, he heals both himself and Grino. I'm gonna just rotate my microphone real quick. He heals both of them. Whenever this has gone off, we've always just gone ahead and just run into the wall and reset, because I think the HP gain is too much to work around it. So you just interrupt it. I gotta fix my camera. Ugh. Just interrupt it. This will happen 3 times. And if I use interject here, interject will not be back in time for the second one. So someone else has to handle the second interject. We'll address that when it comes up. Just something to keep in mind. And then we bring the bath back to the middle. Start hitting them again. Grino is going to start casting Faith Unmoving. This is the knockback again. At the same time, Cherubert is now casting Heaven's Flame. I believe this is the, like, there's a couple things that are going off. I'm pretty sure Heaven's Flame is these chains. You see these PlayStation symbols? What this is chains. So the circle is being tethered to the other circle. The X is being tethered to the other X. One of the tanks will always get X. One of the tanks will always get square. I'm not sure how the healers work. I know the DPS, one will always get triangle, one will always get circle, one will always get X. There's a pattern. We have a set pattern. If you have X, you go to the due north and you go to the due south. As the tank, so because I'm a tank, I know I'm always going to be up here. The DPS is also going to be down here. I think the healers always get squares. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I know what I'm doing in this fight. I don't know what my other team members are doing. The way we resolve this is just this pattern. Like, circles always go to the sides. X's always go top to bottom. Squares always go this diagonal. Triangles always go this diagonal. And we just let the knockback... Uh-oh. No, I don't want to do that. I pressed the wrong hotkey for a second. Let the knockback push us away and then have it break our chains. Break our chains. As the chains go off, there's also giant AoEs that go off on every player. So we need to be apart. We can't just, like, have all 4, like, of one. We can't have, like, one X here, a circle here, a triangle here, and a square here, and just, like, have all 4 people get pushed together at the same as the other 4 go the other way. Everyone's just gonna die. As this goes off, Edelfell starts casting his second Holiest Hallowing. The physical range gets this, because the other tank is busy just trying to drag the other boss into the middle of the arena. We bring them back together. Getting close to the end of this phase. Holiest of Holy starts being cast again. Again, this is just a raid-wide. Again, Grino starts casting... in this case, you can either cast Empty Dimension or Full Dimension. Empty is the same donut that he did before. If it was full... I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, and then if the draw program crashes OBS again, I'm just going to wing it and stop using it. And I'm just going to have to, like, wiggle my mouse around in OBS and just, like, can you see my mouse? See how small it is? This is what I'm pointing at. And we're just going to have to hope for the best. I did the kind of sportscast thing with, like, UCOB when I did this, but I did a different program. This is a new one. I haven't used it in, like, 5 years. Let's just go ahead and bring draw back up, bring interact back up. I'm going to rewind real quick. I'm going to assume that the last thing you guys saw was we're dragging the bosses back to mid. Edelfell starts casting again, Holiest of Holy. This is the raid-wide. Grino will either start casting Empty Dimension or Full Dimension. In this case, he's casting Empty. Oh, this is the wrong... Hold on. Is it? One sec. I don't like the brush being that fucking fat. It's too distracting. There we go. Grino is going to start casting Empty Dimension or Full Dimension. In this case, he's casting Empty. This is the same donut that he did last time. However, if it was Full Dimension, instead of, like, it being a donut and all this being unsafe, it would be an AoE centered on him, and everything inside would be unsafe, and we would all need to move out instead of in. Pretty self-explanatory, I feel. In this case, we just stay in and continue hitting the bosses. If we allowed this phase to go on much longer than this, Adelfell would attempt to cast the heal again. I would need to interrupt it. And then I would believe they would just go into Enrage shortly after that. We did enough damage to kind of skip those. That being said, one thing to keep in mind with these guys is you need to kill both of them basically within 1 GCD of each other. Because as soon as you kill one, the other one will interrupt whatever it is he's doing and start casting Enrage really quickly. So you need to defeat both of them at basically the same time. But we did. But the phase isn't over. We've got some more knights to deal with. We get sucked into this prison. There is now this giant circle around us, you can see. If we attempt to walk out, we'll just die. So we're stuck within the confines of this prison. You can also see off here, there's someone charging up a spear of light. What's that all about? I don't know. Cherubert starts casting Pure of Heart. This is the only guy that we can target and attack right now. If Pure of Heart goes off, it deals raid-wide damage based on how much health he has remaining. So if he is 30% health or below, we survive. If he is higher, we die. That's the main thing to consider here. Both the healers need to stand to the sides of him. It doesn't specifically have to be the healers. This is just the order that we've all agreed on. Because as Pure of Heart is going off, something is going to happen. But first, someone runs to our rescue. Look out! It's Haurchefant. He's here to protect us from the spear. Sir Zephyrin throws the spear at Haurchefant. Haurchefant is blocking it. Great. Love it for him. But there's one problem. For as long as the spear is hitting Haurchefant, it starts pulsing raid-wide damage. So every, second, it's just, raid-wide, 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 raid-wide. So there's a lot of outgoing damage right now. As we're taking care of this ongoing constant raid-wide damage, the two healers are standing to the side of Cherubert because they get targeted with these two cones. This targets whoever is the two closest players to Cherubert. So we have two people stand directly inside of him, close to him, but not on top of each other, so they don't both get hit by this. When that happens, you can also see on their debuff bar, it's a little hard to see on, oh, right, hold on. Let me make OBS bigger so I can see what I'm talking about. At least a little bit better. Okay, I got really concerned for a second. I thought I just crashed OBS again. There's some debuffs. I think this is called Sky Blight or something. I forget what it's called. What this means is when this debuff, it has a 5-second timer. When it counts down to 0 and disappears, wherever you are standing, shortly after that, there will be a puddle that explodes, and anyone who's in that dies. So what you want to do is just kind of, you can watch what the healers do here. They kind of walk off to the side where no one else has any reason to be. They're going to stand there. They're going to wait for their debuff to fall off, and then they're going to move back into the party. As they're doing that, next up is the melees. Well, one melee and one Pictomancer who is playing fake melee throughout this fight. Oh, did Haurchefant already die? I must have missed it. Hold on. Yeah, he's dead now. After so many raid wides, thunk, thunk, Haurchefant just dies. But, I mean, that's how the story of Heavenwards goes. That does mean the raid wide damage has stopped, so big thumbs up. The DPS go to the sides of Cherubert. They get their cones. They go to another spot of the arena to drop their puddles. Then the range must have already gone. I've lost track of who's going when. It doesn't matter. We kill Cherubert. We drop our puddles. We move out of the way. And once Cherubert is done, that's the end of the phase. We're now on to phase 2. But not right away. So this is the one ultimate that is a door boss, a checkpoint, whatever you want to call it. The phase 1, it's probably... I feel like there was an era in development where they must have, like, not had a checkpoint, and I felt like this is just too much. Just put one checkpoint here. It'll make sense later why there's a checkpoint. But the reason why we just go ahead and just run into the wall right at the start of phase 2 is because there's a checkpoint. We've used a bunch of cooldowns and mitigation. Both tanks have used their invuln. Might as well just run into the wall and reset, get everything back, and then start the next pull fresh. But that is the only checkpoint. From here on out, if any of us are... If we wipe, that's over. We're back to here, and we got to start over. Just another 18 minutes to go, folks. This is... the Singularity Reactor. If you remember, this is where you chase down Thordan and fight him. It starts off pretty straightforward. I'm going to pull the boss. I'm the main tank through the majority of this fight. I point him away from the party because all of his autos have like a little bit of a conal cleave to them, as you can kind of see. Like, anyone who's in here is going to take damage and maybe die. Please ignore that the samurai is constantly joining me to take autos. They have third eye. They gain more damage if they use their parry ability and take a lot of unnecessary damage. You know, minor. We're in a huge rush to kill these bosses as fast as possible, as I just complained about at the start of this whole thing. He's going to start casting Ascalon's Mercy Concealed. What this is he's going to lift his sword. We're all going to move, because when he drops his sword, where everyone was standing is going to be this giant cone. Well, it's not even that. It's kind of thin, but there's going to be a cone. Just when you see him cast Ascalon's Mercy Concealed, and you see him lift the sword, move. Because where you were just standing has been snapshot to have a cone fired at it. Move out of the way. This is going to happen a couple more times. He starts hitting me with some tank busters. I've mitigated this. It's a giant cone. Again, do not stand with the tank if you don't have to. And then he's going to start the first real mechanic of this fight. Strength of the Ward. This is the first trio, as we call it, where the boss goes away, becomes untargetable, and we just have to resolve the mechanic. So it looks like nothing has really happened. You can't really see. 3 knights have just dropped on either a cardinal or an intercardinal. There is this guy. You can kind of ignore him for now. I can see there's no knight here, there's no knight here, and there's no knight here. So that means somewhere behind me there are 3 knights. There was a little bit of smoke over here, so there's actually one over towards the 3 marker. So I'm going to whip my camera around. Okay, I see one over here. I do not see one over here, and I didn't see one on the purple marker earlier. We have these markers color coordinated, so the purple is straight across the arena from the other purple. The yellow is straight across from the other yellow. I don't know why I picked those as my examples when you can clearly see the reds and the blues and not the other ones. It's my first time. I've never played this game before, folks. So we know purple is safe. So we're going to need to go to the purple markers. I'm just going to let this play out for a second so I can pause at a specific frame to show you guys the safe spot we have to work with. Zoop. Okay, so there's all 3 knights. What happens is they do a giant dash across the arena, as you can clearly see. Wide, don't be in it, it'll kill you. At the same time, this guy is casting a big circle. This is a quake that is going to hit that circle. Then it's going to hit a donut around that circle. Then it's going to hit a donut around that donut, and it's just going to like pulse out, and you need to like let it go off and then move into it. Move into where it just hit, because it's not going to hit there again. At the same time, Thordan is casting Lightning Storm. As I was worried about, some cast bars are kind of obscured behind me. I apologize. I'm not going to move the camera. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move the camera, because that way you guys get to see Wuk Evu saying, "Can you lock the fuck in, please?" Which is going to be present in chat for the entire poll. It was great. Lightning Storm is targeting every single player. Every single player is going to get a lightning AoE around them. So we all need to move into these small safe areas of these dives and spread out far enough that we're not going to get hit by any of these AoEs. So that's why we're kind of like spread out like in the way that we are. So those go off. If you know Final Fantasy XIV, you know once an attack goes off, the animation is no longer active, so you can. That's why I, as a tank, just immediately move into every dodge because I know it's not actually a threat anymore. I just want to get this mechanic over with. Some more knights have dropped down. There's this knight here, there's this knight here, and there's one more knight somewhere, and he's not important. It literally doesn't matter. The only knights that matter are these two knights here. Don't worry about them right now, though, because Thordan's not done. Thordan is once again casting Ascalon's Mercy. You don't see the cast bar for it anywhere because he's untargetable. You can see it over here. He's going to lift his sword, and then he's going to drop his sword. And again, you need to move to the side. Uh-oh, our samurai died. So he actually got clipped by the quake. Unfortunately, he was behind me, so you can't see it. This is the only death in our run. We were able to recover this. Not a huge deal. We're able to recover this because our healer, our scholar, is awesome, and they've practiced recovering this specific mechanic a lot. If you get hit by the quake, you get stunned, and then you get killed by the Ascalon's Mercy because you literally can't move. So now that Ascalon's Mercy is done, we can now pay attention to what's going on with these knights. So where these knights have dropped down are going to indicate where these safe spots are for the rest of the mechanic, because they're always going to drop down kind of close to each other and always closer to one side of the arena. So for example, they're closer to the 3 side of the arena than the C side. So that means the furthest side away over here, this is where Thordan is going to spawn. Additionally, 3 people get targeted with these markers. These are the Dragoons. So we've got the Paladins, we've got Thordan, we've got Dragoons, the whole Knights 12 over here. These 3 guys are about to get dropped on by Dragoons. And when those go off, it is a giant explosion. It's huge. It's like a quarter of the arena. So for example, if they're standing over here at C, basically this entire bit of the arena would be unsafe. So these 3 need to spread. Since Thordan is going to be here, they need to go to the sides. Thordan is not. One of them needs to go there, one of them needs to go here, and one of them needs to go here. Everyone else needs to head towards Thordan. Thordan is going to do a stack marker. At the same time, there's one other knight casting these towers. So wherever we're going, we then need to resolve towers afterwards. If you've resolved this mechanic correctly, it's really a non-issue. The reason why I bring this up really is because since we had one person dead, that person is... the only people who are not taking towers and never can are the tanks. And a non-tank died. So we're now down 1 body for towers. So the healer is quickly running over here, resurrecting someone in this tower. So that way when they get up, they're already in the tower and we've done. But then they also need to, since they also have this Dragoon marker, they can't just like resurrect someone here and then go stand here. They need to resurrect someone here and then immediately run to the opposite side of the arena. Thank you, Snark. We love you. Meanwhile, while those defamations go out, we call them defamations. If you hear me use the term defamation, that just means a player that is targeted for a giant fuck-off explosion. XIV terminology. I apologize. The people who have the Dragoons are running off to the corners. The people who don't have their Dragoon are running over towards Thordan because Thordan is going to do a stack marker. The tanks are waiting for a second. They're waiting next to the Paladins because the Paladins are going to do what Adelfeld did in the first phase. They're going to put out some tethers. The tanks need to grab these tethers. These tethers are proximity. The further you can stretch them, the less damage you'll take. So we stretch them as far as we can. So like that's why we crisscross over onto other sides. So even though I took the knight on the left, I'm moving over to the right because it stretches it just a little bit further. But we're sticking within this quadrant to also share this stack with the party, but being far enough into the corner of this safe area so that this knight AoE tether doesn't hit. So we're getting hit by Thordan and the knight, but these guys here are only getting hit by the knight. Ideally. If they got hit by, sorry, these guys are only getting hit by Thordan. If these guys ever get touched by the knight, they're fucking exploding and dead. There's also these expanding red markers. This is kind of like nothing. There's really only... I think it's more visual than anything. This is the only way to solve this mechanic is by sending the deformations to the opposite ends of the earth and everyone else stand towards Thordan. So they're kind of just there to scare you. Everything goes off at once. Everyone spreads out and takes their tethers, except for the tanks who are locked in place with the tether stun. And then we all converge back on Thordan. Thordan is now casting a raid wide. Straightforward stuff. He starts casting Heavenly Heal. He applies a vulnerability to the main tank. Ideally, trust me, I got something to complain about this later. Ideally, you would just tank swap this, and then the other tank would take these following 3 hits. But instead, I just invuln it, and we just move on with our day. We start going into the second mechanic. Folks, I hope you're prepared to sit here for probably an hour as I explain meteor priority, but we'll get there. This is probably one of the most complicated mechanics of the fight, so it's really good that it's this early, because you're going to be doing it a lot. Sanctity of the Ward. First things first, we all kind of spread out a little bit, because we're about to get targeted by something, and we need to see who's targeted by what. So, 3 knights drop down. We've got 2 paladins, and we've got a dark knight. The 2 paladins aren't going to do tethers again. They're going to do that thing Adel did in the first phase, where they're going to like dash around and drop 1 billion light balls. And they're going to cause 1 million explosions. The Dark Knight targets people. So you can see one of us has a 1 and one of us has a 2 sword. The Dark Knight is going to essentially use plunge. He's going to do a gap closer onto the 1, and then onto the 2, and then onto the 1 again, and then onto the 2 again. 2 things about this plunge. It's not actually called plunge. I just call it plunge because it's a Dark Knight and he's using plunge. Sue me. Again, it is proximity. So the further you are away from where he initiated the plunge onto you, the less damage you'll take. Also, it is a party stack. So you want to split into 2 groups of 4. One of them, the people who are group 1, as we call them, aka the people who are taking this first plunge, want to go as far away from the Dark Knight as possible. Meanwhile, the people who are group 2 want to go onto the Dark Knight. So that way, once he jumps from group where he starts over to 1, group 2 is now as far away as possible from it. That's just basic geometry. But now we need to do that. But we also need to identify a couple of things. One, there's a giant eye in one of the spots of the arena. We also need to identify which direction the paladins are facing. So in this case, we either call clock or counter. In this case, they are looking counterclockwise. So the technically furthest point away from the Dark Knight would be like here, but we're actually going to start just a little bit counterclockwise of it to start dodging the paladins. Don't look at the eye. But the eye is not the only thing, because there's also Thordan over here. Both of these are gazes. If you look at either Thordan or the eye, you go crazy, you lose control of your character, and you will probably either walk into the wall and die, or you will walk into the light ball explosions and die. Either way, it's not good. Don't look at them. In this case, I think I was safe to just look directly where I'm staring at you guys, at chat right now. So the gazes go off. The Dark Knight does his first plunge. You can see it's pretty big. He's going to jump back to the others. The paladins in the middle are doing their zigzag zoopity zoop. The way we resolve the paladins, which are now kind of the last thing we really need to resolve, is you wait. And what I'm looking at is essentially this stretch of the wall, because we're never going to go into the middle, because it's just death. You can see how many light balls are here. It's all bad in here. Don't go there. We're going to be moving along this wall. So as soon as I see any of these light balls go off, either like here or here as soon as one like shows up and then explodes and disappears, just start moving along this wall. There's like a spot about here. There's a specific number of notches that you're like intended to stop. People say like, oh, stop 3 notches from this thing. I've literally always just done this off vibes. I go, I think this is the right spot to stop. So don't listen to me. So there's one that just went off right in front of us. This one right here. So we're going to go ahead and start moving. And that dodges everything. There are technically multiple patterns like the paladins can do. Like you can kind of see in this case, our initial starting point was like a little wedge. But what can happen instead is this light ball actually first happens over here, and then when you dodge over here, then that safe spot is a little wedge. The mindset of just wait for any to go off and then move to about here, it'll resolve every pattern. And you move as a group just to maintain that Dark Knight plunge stack. And now on to the complicated the complicated part of this mechanic. So a lot of things are about to start happening. So there is this giant donut all around the arena. This just limits the amount of space you have to work with. This just means for the rest of this mechanic, well, not the rest of this mechanic. For now, we only have this limited space to work with. Once that donut goes off, it's done. We have these fires. Once this goes off, it becomes a fire puddle. And if you step in the fire puddle for the rest of the mechanic, you get a heavy damage over time and you die. Everyone is splitting into groups of 2 because one of these guys is casting Heimel Storm, probably. I don't know which one it technically is. It's either all 4 supports or all 4 DPS are being targeted for a stack that can be shared with 2 people. When you get hit by it, it's going to create an ice puddle as well. So we're placing ice puddles in between all of these fire puddles. Much like the fire puddles, once you step into an ice puddle, you get a heavy damage over time and you die. Split up into groups of 2. There's also 8 towers. I think in my point of view, you can see all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. These 8 towers can spawn in basically any configuration. This is where we're going to spend a lot of time talking about tower and meteor priority. So these towers cannot spawn directly on these intercards. So like we have like this D and this 2 that is southeast and southwest. The towers will always either spawn, if you imagine each split of these intercardinals as kind of like a quadrant, there can always be either one tower somewhere in this stretch along, I'm talking specifically about the wall. Ignore the towers in the middle of the arena for now. On the outer edge of the wall, there can always either be 1 tower or there can be 2 towers. There will never be 3. So that's why it's fine to kind of stack 2 people per quadrant, because with 2 people here, there will always be enough people to resolve either both towers if they need one outside the arena, or 1 tower outside, and then also additionally 1 tower inside of the arena. We call these outside and inside. That seems pretty self-explanatory. But also at the same time this is going off, as you can see who is being targeted. The DPS, Dante and Rick, are being targeted with this symbol. If you've done Thordan Extreme, I don't remember if it shows up in normal. It probably does. You may recognize the symbol. What's going to happen is these players are going to start getting meteors dropped on their head. 7 meteors each. And if any of those meteors touch each other or are too close, they will explode and kill the party. So these meteors have to go take a tower outside, because once a tower has been taken, or once they've taken their tower outside, they can then start running around the outside of the arena and dropping their meteors where there's just like a lot more space to work with. Because remember, once this mechanic like officially, we have not started this mechanic yet. Once this mechanic officially starts, there's going to be fire puddles and ice puddles everywhere. separating the outside of the arena and the inside of the arena, and you cannot cross over them. So you're either stuck outside or you're stuck inside. And if the meteor goes inside, there's not enough room to work with. So what we do is we try to adjust to have both meteor runners start south and north. In this case, one of the players over at the west side was targeted for a meteor, so they just swapped sides with another DPS. You want to keep it to a DPS per party and a support player per party. So we reorganize. They kind of switch places. I'm kind of looking the camera around because I need to determine what tower I'm expected to take, because I'm paired with a meteor player. So let me just rewind a little bit. You can see as the mechanic starts, I look in my quadrant. I see within my quadrant there is only one meteor, right? I am not targeted, or sorry, there's only one tower. I am not targeted for the meteor. So I know that the meteor player needs that tower. So I'm not going outside. So I'm starting to look inside. Which inside tower am I expected to take? The way we try to organize this is, if you can, if there is one clockwise of you, you just take that tower. There isn't one there for me. So I look towards the next clockwise, in which case it would be over here. However, if you look over in this quadrant, again, there's only one tower over here. So I know that one of these players is going out here to take this tower, and one of these players is going to come in, and he's going to want to go clockwise for their tower. So I can't take this tower. So I'm going, okay, what about this one? So that's the kind of mindset you kind of have to have, which is like adjusting and just like brainolating these towers. Folks, I apologize for the technical mess. I didn't think that the draw program was going to be that unstable. So I'm just going to stick with using my mouse to point things out. I apologize. Hopefully it's clear enough. And hopefully you guys picked up enough of me talking about general like tower priority for at least this set. Because these are not the only towers that we're working with. So we all at this point know which tower. Well, there's one last priority thing I didn't explain. So we know who's taking we know that the people who are targeted with meteors need to go out and take their towers. The way we associate the remaining outside towers is if you are a role that shares the role of the people targeted with meteors. So in this case, even though Iruku and Vesper are not targeted for meteors, they are the same role as the people who have meteors. So they also will require to take an outside tower, because each quadrant, as I explained it earlier, will have at least one tower. So there's going to be a tower to the east and to the west required for the other DPS to take. Once we know that, if there are two towers in your quadrant and you are not the role that shares a role with the people who are running the meteors out, you just go out anyway. You use some general body language to indicate to your assigned. So like, if I were to look out here and I saw that there's two towers out here, right? As an additional note, when I look behind me and I see to the south, I'm also looking for like where the south outside tower is, because ideally both meteors are starting like as directly across from each other as possible. Because if one of them starts like here, and meanwhile the other one also starts like close to the west end, that's considered a cursed pattern, because they're both going to want to rotate in the same direction, but now this person who is starting in the south now has less room to work with. So if that were the case, if there was two towers on my side and I look behind me and I see, okay, there's a tower over here and there's a tower over here, but also there's a tower like here, I know the person who has the meteor wants to take this one. So I'm going to use body language to try to indicate like Don't worry, bro. I'm going to take this one. You go to that one. It's just a lot of feeling out where people need to go, want to go. I cleared DSR. Welcome to the chat. I'm just talking about how fun and not complicated this fight is. So, all this stuff is about to go off. The ice stacks go off. Boom. Everyone starts to move. The fire puddles are now active. If you've determined that you need to be outside, get outside. If you've determined that you need to be inside, get inside. Yep. Right. So I did end up needing to take the tower that was to my counterclockwise and not to my clockwise because there was only one tower to the south. Anyway. So, great. Towers have been resolved. That means the mechanic is done, right? No. Now there's 8 more towers on the outside of the arena. Except this time, these towers are static. Whereas the towers in the first half of this mechanic spawned in more or less random locations that you kind of need to feel out where people need to go. These ones are always going to be on the outside of the arena, and they're always going to be true cardinals, north, south, east, and west, and they're going to be intercardinals, northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. So the way we resolve this, because we know the meteors are always going to start pretty much to the north and south, they're going to end in the north and south towers. The people who were assigned the same role as the meteor runners, so in this case, Uriku and Vesper, again, because they are DPS, even though they do not have the meteors, they are the role of the meteors. They're going to also take the east and west towers, because that's where they started, more or less. And the rest of us need to take the intercardinals. And you take the intercardinal of your quadrant. So when I split up the arena before, and I said, like, these are the 4 quadrants of the arena. In this case, as the north quadrant, I will be taking the tower that spawns in the northeast. But as you can see, I'm kind of stuck in the middle of the arena. I can't get out to take the outside towers. Also, Grinno, the knight in the middle, starts casting Faith Unmoving. If you remember, that's the knockback. So what we require here is those of us who are stuck inside need to pre-position around this knight to get knocked back into our towers, just like Heaven's Fall and UCOB. And those on the outside of the arena need to be sure to use Arm's Length or Surecast to not get punted into the wall. As all this is going off, you may have seen these guys with the meteors start running around in a circle. They're dropping meteors everywhere. If any of those meteors touch another meteor or they're too close to each other, they'll go off and explode and kill everyone. The towers go off. We've soaked all the towers. We've resolved it. The mechanic is done. It's a very complicated mechanic, as I said, probably the most complicated mechanic in the fight, unironically. But because it happened so early, there's plenty of time to learn the intricacies of it. You're going to be doing it a lot. Thordan comes back, and he's only got 2 things left to do. One of them is a giant raid wide. I turn off my HUD for this just because why not? I'm not doing anything else. Let's make it cinematic. Then I turn my HUD back on and we all are at like 20% health because that raid wide hits like a fucking truck. Then he's going to start casting Broad Swing. He's going to get off the wall. He's going to start flailing around hopelessly. He's going to point at a random player. Everyone needs to get behind him, because what Broad Swing is he's going to attack either right, left, and then behind him, or he's going to attack left, then right, then behind him. He never attacks behind him first, so just get behind him, wait to see where the first cone goes off, move into it, you're done with that. He does it twice. Another Broad Swing, get behind him, he does right, left, and then we kill him. After that second Broad Swing, he would just do Etheric Burst, Etheric Boom. He starts casting Enrage. That is the last of his mechanics. But now everyone needs to start mitigating like crazy, because though he emerged victorious, his comrade's body was claimed by Nidhogg. That's right, if you remember, Estinian needs a little help. He drops down. If you go watch my VOD and you listen closely, lots of people meme that he's either saying, I am named Kyle or anime time. So pick your poison, say it loud and proud as he drops down, because you're going to be hearing that. Much like seeing meteors a lot, you're going to be hearing that voice line a lot. You got to find your fun where you can get it. He drops down with a really heavy hitting raid wide, so that's why we're shielded like crazy. I provoke him. He whips around. He starts attacking me. His autos are like a thick line. Nah, it's not that thick. It's a line. You can kind of see. Just don't stand with the tank. Again, folks, if you're not the tank, don't stand with the tank. Unless you're a samurai and you have third eye, in which case, do whatever the fuck you want. I don't know. I'm not your dad. After a few autos, he will start to give everyone numbers. That's convenient. What these numbers indicate are the order that players are going to get dove on. So all of the ones at the same time are going to get jumped on by a Dragoon, a clone of Nidhogg. And then all of the twos are going to get hit by a clone of Nidhogg. And then all of the threes. There's always going to be 3 1s, 3 1s, 2 2s, and 3 3s. This will become relevant later. Once numbers go out, we need to assign positions for where we're going to take those dives, because those dives are quite big. Those dives are going to, when the player gets hit with a dive, they're going to drop a tower where they were standing, and that player can't take that tower. When a player gets dove on by a Dragoon, they're going to get a vulnerability that says if you take any mechanic after this, you're toast, you're finished, you're done, you're dead. So we're assigning positions ahead of time. We're calling out like where we're going to drop these towers and where we're going to take these dives. So all of the 1s and 3s goes to stand at either the east, west, or south of Nidhogg. I have a 1, so I go stand to his west. You can see there's, ignore what Dante's doing. He's a melee. He's got positionals to worry about, but Drisby over here has a 1. There's a 1 here, a 3 here. There's a 1 here. Dante is my 3. Over on this side is a 1 and a 3. And then the 2 2s are indicating where they're going to stand in front of Nidhogg. The 2s are going to take theirs towards the front. This is not the end-all, be-all of where people are going to be expected to stand. Because after a little bit, you can see that we also get, if you look over here in our buffs and debuffs, some of us have arrows. And some of us have like this kind of like just a blank kind of cross pattern. What this means is if you have this kind of what I have here, this blank high jump target, there's 3 of them. There's high jump, there's elusive jump, and there's, I think it's spine shatter dive because he's a Dragoon. And that's that little bit of flavor is really funny to me. If you're a high jump target like I am, that means when you get jumped on, where you are standing is where the tower will appear. If you have an arrow, in this case, arrow up or arrow down, it can never be to the side. It's always going to be forward or back. Where you are facing is what will dictate where the tower appears. It will jump in that direction about the length of Nidhogg's hitbox. So, for example, if I had an arrow pointing up and I was facing the direction I'm facing now, towards the east, first, I'd be doing the mechanic wrong, but let's just say this is what was happening. If I had an arrow pointing up and I was facing to the east, when I take the dive here, close to the 3 marker, my tower is going to appear over here towards the C marker. I don't want that to happen. The way we kind of resolve this is what people call Westhog. It's a terrible name. We resolve this in a way that your tower will always go where you need it to go if you are facing west. So we always want the people who have down arrows to go over here on the west side, and the people who have up arrows to go on the east side. If I came to this spot and I had an arrow pointing up, the position that I claimed by moving here is now no longer valid. This is just to say, the reason we claim these spots is just to indicate, hey, if our number is not associated with any arrows, this is just where we're going to go. However, if our number now has arrows, forego that, go to where we're supposed to go with these arrows in mind. That's why we claim these spots. In this case, only the 2s got arrows. It can never be all 3 numbers get arrows. It'll always be either one set of numbers or 2 sets of numbers. And there can never be like 2 1s with up arrows or 2 3s with down arrows. It'll always be either the 2s have an up and a down, or the 1s will have an up, a down, and a nothing, because otherwise it's pretty unresolvable. So those of us with the 1s will pre-position. He's also going to start casting Gnash and Lash. He'll either cast Gnash and Lash, or he will cast Lash and Gnash. All this means is as we are resolving this set of dives and towers, Gnash means be out of his hitbox, and Lash means be in his hitbox. So as we're doing this, we're going to move into his hitbox, or because it's Gnash and Lash, for this set, we're going to move out, and then we're going to move in. So first, all the 1s get jumped. Everyone else stands in front of Nidhogg, because there's one last thing that we haven't talked about. As some of these mechanics go off, he also hits them all. You can kind of see right here with a shared party hit. So it's going to target a random player. I think it's random. It might be. No, it's random. It might. I think it's a random player from within a range in front of him. Don't quote me on that. It can't be truly random, because then maybe like one of the numbers could get hit, and it can't be based on like closest or furthest, because then it may be possible for one of the side people to bait it. But I've never really put into thought into how it's being baited. I think it's just a random person from within his cone in front of him. Don't quote me on that. I could look it up, but I'm not gonna. I've taken my dive. As you can see, I now have some debuffs that say if I get hit by another dive or if I take a tower, I'm dead. So I need to move out of the way. The way we resolve towers is you resolve the towers. Kind of the short version is you resolve the towers next in line. So as a 1, I need to stand in the towers created by the number 2s. The 2s need to stand in the towers created by the number 3s, and the 3s need to stand in the towers created by the number 1s. That gets you most of the way there. There are 3 1s and only 2 2s. So whoever had 1 south of the boss doesn't take a 2 tower. They take the 3 to the south of the boss. And you kind of just indicate sides based on that. So because I had 1, I'm placing my tower here. And then I will be soaking the 2 tower that is also on the west side of the boss. This is a mechanic, much like Sanctity. You're going to see it a lot. This is a lot like wormhole formation in the Epic of Alexander, if you've watched my video for that. People jokingly called this mechanic wormhole, WYRM, just because you have to learn the minutia of if you are assigned this number and this arrow, where do you go? What do you do? And you just have to keep going through the motions until you've like learned the methodology to each one. But you're going to be doing it a lot, so it is what it is. The people up in front take their stack. Those of us who just dropped the tower get out of the way because we can't stay where that tower was. We move up to the front with the rest of the party. Those who had the 3s are now moving into position to take the 1 towers and to drop their towers in the same places that the 1s drop theirs later. The 2s are going to start first. Okay, that was the first out, because remember, there was Gnash and Lash. So Gnash, then we move in for Lash. Those towers have now been soaked. That is what that second Nidhogg clone drop was. Boosh. That's the towers going off. There needs to be someone in that tower or everyone dies. The 2s are now going to go. So in this case, Snark and Iruku, they're going to, you can kind of see down here in the corners, they're moving to the sides of the party, but still in front of the boss, just because there's no room on this kind of remaining back half of the boss to do anything. They're going to go drop their 2s over there. Those people who just soaked the first set of towers now have Nidhogg clones staring at them. Those Nidhogg clones are going to do giant line AoEs baited on the players closest to them. So once you soak your tower, you want to stay close to the clone and bait it away from the rest of the group. So that way the lines just go off safely. Meanwhile, the 2s are getting dove on. The people who had the 1 are going out to soak the 2 towers. A Lash and Nash is going off. The 2s are now baiting the Nidhogg Hraesvelgrs. The 3s are getting dove on. The people in front are taking another set of another party soak. The 1s or the 2s are now moving to take the 3 towers. You're dodging the Nash and Lash. It's just a lot of moving parts. But trust me, once you know how this mechanic works, it feels so good to do. It's just so fun to see the fluidity in motion. I love it. This is genuinely probably my favorite phase in any Ultimate fight. And that's it. That is most of Nidhogg. I'm barely even halfway through this fight, and I can already feel my throat getting sore, and my nose is really itchy, so I apologize if I start sounding a bit stuffy. I, as the main tank, split out a bit from the party to take a couple of autos. He's going to cast Drakenlance. He's going to point towards a random player, and then just fire off a cone in that direction. It's not a particularly big cone, you just move out of the way. We're almost done with this phase. We're now into the last set of towers of this phase. 4 towers will always spawn around him. They will always spawn at the intercardinals. So northeast, southwest, southeast, northwest. It can, as you can see, the one I'm in has essentially 2 markers in it. That means 2 people need to be in this tower. There can be any number of players required to stand in this from 1 to 4. So this can either require 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, or 4 people. In this case, the most normal set of towers would be 2 in each one, and that's how we pre-split up. You can see, like, we kind of split up into pairs, 2 people in each quadrant. But we didn't get that lucky. One of these towers requires 3 players, one of them requires 1. And the way you resolve this is a method that works no matter the configuration, is you stand in your own tower. If your tower has a 2, you're done. I don't care if any of the other towers has a 4. If your tower has a 2, the tower that you were assigned to, you're done. Stay there. If your tower has a 3 or a 4, again, stay there. If your tower only requires 1 person, one of you is going to be pre-assigned to stay in the tower no matter what. In this case, Rick, my buddy in this tower. No matter what, he is always the anchor in this tower. I will be the one to adjust. The first thing I do is I look to the tower to my left. In this case, it would be over here. If that tower requires more than 2 people, I go there. If it doesn't, because it either has a 1 or a 2, then I look to my right. I look over here. I see if this one requires more than 2 people. If it doesn't, then I go across the arena to this one. So you look left, then you look right, and then you look forward. And the first one that you see that requires more than 2 people, go there. And no matter what the configuration, assuming you pre-assign the pairs and you pre-assigned the anchor for each tower, it'll always work out. In this case, the floater from this tower over here needs to drift over to this tower. So I think that'd be Drisby. Yeah, he moves over. And we take our towers. We're almost done. The towers all go off. 3 of those towers are going to spawn a Nidhogg clone that, again, needs to be baited because they're going to do the Hraesvelgr, the giant line AoE that baits onto the closest player. In this case, the one that I was in, you can see he whips around and he turns to look at Rick because Rick is the anchor. He's going to stay there. He's going to bait the Hraesvelgr away from the rest of the party. One of the clones, is going to create this tether. The boss is also going to create a tether. Both tanks need to grab a tether. It doesn't matter. I can take the add tether. I can take the boss tether. My co-tank Drisby can take either one. As long as Each of us has one tether. We need to take one. When this tether goes off, it's going to be a giant explosion on each of us. This is one of the hardest hitting attacks in the entire, if not game, at least fight. So I am using all the mitigation I have for this because I use my invulnerability in the fucking Thordan phase, which I'll complain about later. We take it away from the rest of the party. The rest of the party, once they've baited their Skogls, collapse into the east and west. One of the tanks kind of goes roughly mid. The other tank goes roughly either north or south. And we just take that giant explosion soul tether. And then I point the boss south. And we're basically done with the phase. He does a few more autos. He does one more Dragonlance. This Dragonlance always points to the south. So that's why I just go ahead and pre-face him south. Just so he doesn't randomly spin around for the melees to have to concern themselves with. And then he would start casting Revenge of the Horde. Revenge of the Horde is just Enrage. If that goes off, you lose. And now we're on to the next phase. We've defeated Nidhogg. Estinian collapses. He's being tethered to the eyes. You can't really see, and I apologize, but Alpha Node is here. He's in the middle of us. There's a reason we all stand on top of him. But if you could see Alpha Node here going, oh my god, Estinian, my friend. If you've seen the cutscene in Heaven's Word patch 3.3, cutscene that I saw for the first time yesterday, I skipped all the cutscenes in Heaven's Word, and I tried to make an effort to, as I was progressing this fight, and I wanted to understand the narrative being told better, because I enjoy the narrative being wove through the story. I tried to make an effort to play through Heaven's Word, but I just do not have the motivation to pay attention to the MSQ in this game most of the time because it's just so slow. For the past couple days, I was like, I'm just gonna watch a plot recap on YouTube, and I saw the cutscene for the first time of the Warrior of Light and Alpha Node grabbing the eyes out of Nidhogg, which in that cutscene is also a ghost of Haurchefant and Isael. As you can see them here, what happens here is the reason why we're all standing on top of Alpha Node is Isael is targeting Alpha Node and Haurchefant is targeting a random player. Both of those the player and Alpha Node are going to receive this puddle. They're going to drop a puddle. And what this puddle is it gives you a buff. You can kind of see on, you can literally see on everyone's bar. I need to make OBS bigger again because OBS crashed on me because that stupid draw program that I'm disappointed about. The first thing on all of our buff and debuff bar are 2 buffs. These are buffs that allow us to actually do damage to the eyes. If we didn't have either of them, we couldn't do damage to either of them. If you only had one of these buffs, you could only damage one of the eyes. So that's why we stand on Alpha Node, because we need to receive both buffs. We all spread out. Some of us spread out around the red eye. We call them the red and blue eye, which, because if you look at these eyes, one of them is called the right eye and one of them is called the left eye. But if you're looking at the eyes from this perspective, which you would most of the time, the right eye is on the left and the left eye is on the right. But it makes sense if you're like a dragon looking from north to south, because that would be his left eye. It's a fucking mess. We just call it the red eye and the blue eye. It's the stage right eye. Yeah. You can also see that the right eye spawns with only half health and the left eye spawns with full health. What's that about? We'll get to that. The tanks establish aggro on both eyes. So I'm taking one of the eyes. My co-tank is taking the other eye. We spread out. Alpha Node. Estinian pulses out a bleed. And then the eyes start casting Hatebound. Once hate band goes off, you can kind of, it's a little hard to see, we're all tethered to an eye. 4 players are tethered to the red eye, 4 players are tethered to the blue eye. What these tethers mean is if you have a red tether, when you take damage, the red eye also takes damage. If you have a blue tether and you take damage, the blue eye gains life. So what we're going to try to do through this phase is those of us who have a red eye purposefully take damage, and those of us who have a blue eye avoid damage. Thankfully, we can pass these tethers amongst ourselves. So we've already kind of assigned, we want the first set of red tethers to be both the tanks and both the DPS. And as you can see, I have the blue tether. You can see by this debuff here on my screen. You can also see on the debuff bars who has what tether. It is the blue and red icons. I want the red tether. Everyone who has an incorrect tether, just go move to the middle of the arena on top of Estinian, meet each other, high five each other, clap, we've traded. So I now have the red tether. You also get, whenever you trade tethers, you get this debuff that says you cannot trade tethers for 3 seconds. This is a godsend, so you don't accidentally just like keep swapping the tether back and forth just by standing on top of each other. You cannot accidentally trigger this by standing on the same color as you. So like a red tether cannot bump into another red tether and trade tethers. You keep the one that you still have. The only way you can swap tethers is by meeting someone that has the opposite color of you. Now that we have our correct tethers, you can also see this is happening around both eyes. There are 2 blue orbs on the north and south of each eye, and there is a yellow orb as well. The yellow orb is going to grow bigger first, and this is an orb that... the way all the orbs work is they're going to grow, and then they're grow, and then they're going to explode. If they explode, it kills everyone and you die. If you walk into the orb, it does damage to you based on how big it was. The yellow orbs require 2 people to take it. It is spread amongst both players. So this is why we have both the tanks and both the DPS, or both the melees, sorry. We're going to take both the red tethers. The yellow orbs are going to go off first. So me and my co-tank make sure we get a red tether. The orb has grown once. The orb has grown a second time, and now we walk into it. And you can if you watch the health bar on the left eye, either here on the eye itself or here in the health bars to the side, once this orb explodes, you're going to watch their left eye just absolutely get chunked down. But now we have these blue orbs. And also, those of us who just took an orb now have a vulnerability that says if we take more fire damage, we die. So those of us who just took the yellow orb can't also take the blue orb. So all of the ranged and supports pre-positioned close to the blues. All of the reds split up, trade tethers with the blues, and then those of us who are done with our orbs just converge on the blue eye. We're going to try to get through most of the phase by doing most of the damage to the red eye through purposefully taking damage. So now that I no longer am required to purposefully take damage, get over to the blue eye and just start attacking it. And also, just by being on the blue eye, I am now just out of the way of everybody else because no one has any reason to be inside the blue eye. All of the supports take their blue orb, and we're going to keep the tethers the way they are now. All of the red tethers are going to pre-position kind of in a box around the blue eye. I have never done P8S, so I never had to do snake prio, but if you're familiar with that term, that is kind of what we're doing here. I'm more familiar with the Garuda Sisters priority in Ultima Weapon Ultimate. What the eyes are doing now is they're casting Mirage Dive. What this means is 2 of the 4 red tethers randomly are going to be targeted for a dive from one of the Dragoons. It's not going to drop a tower. It's not going to cause like a giant explosion. It's going to cause like a medium explosion around them, so don't be close. But they're going to randomly target 2 red tethers. And once that person has taken a dive, they also have a vulnerability that says they can't take another dive or they'll die. So once a player gets dove on, those of us in the blue tether pile need to start trading with them, and then those people will come back in. The tanks are first, and I start by looking at Rick. I see if Rick gets dove on. If he doesn't, I look at Aruku. If Aruku is dove on, I take his tether. If he wasn't, I look at Ashia, and I take that tether. Meanwhile, my co-tank is looking down at Snark. If Snark is dove on, he trades with her. He looks over at Ian, trades there, and you just kind of prioritize, like, so that way you're organized on who you're trading with. So here's Mirage Dive. You can see Snark and Aruku were dove on. So since I was starting at Rick and going counterclockwise, I'm going to go trade with Aruku, and Drisby, my co-tank, is going to go trade with Snark. Trade. Those two move in. Second set of dives. The melees go out and do the same thing. Third set of dives. This time, here's a mechanic I don't understand at all, because as a blue tether, I go out and I trade tethers once, and then if I need to, I come back into the middle. Like in this example, I was hit by a dive. Like, let's say, for example, Rick was dove on. I went out and traded with him, and then I got doved on in the immediate next set. I don't care. I'm now done with the mechanic. The next people who have to go out to trade are the people who were doved on in the first set, and I don't know how they handle the priority on that. That's not my problem. So, like, in this case, it would be Iruku and Snark. So the melees go out, and now Iruku and Snark come out to trade, and I don't fucking know how they determine the priority of that. Not my problem. At this point, there's going to be one more set of dives, and when those dives go off, that is enough damage to kill the red eye. You can watch as that set of dives go off, and the red eye just dead. Awesome. And now we finished killing the blue eye. The blue eye is going to attempt to cast Steep Enrage. This is Enrage if this goes off. This actually doesn't kill you. If both eyes were still alive and both Steep Enrage went off, then you wipe. But one is survivable. That being said, there is this Nidhogg's influence bar right here. If that fills up, that is your remaining time in this phase. If that fills up, Istinian turns into Nidhogg and you wipe. He just lands, you take 1 billion damage, and you die. But we kill. And that is the story of the Dragon Song's War. If you played Heavensward, that's the end of the story. We did it. We beat the ultimate. Pay no attention to the runtime of the VOD if you were watching this on YouTube. I'm going to take a short break. I need to feed my cat. I need to fluff some rice that just finished on the rice cooker. And I need to scratch the fuck out of my nose. You probably saw me for the past hour just going, oh God. For some reason, when I talk for a long time, my nose just gets really itchy. I don't know why. I'm going to take a short, couple minutes break. And when I get back, we're going to talk about the second half of this entire ultimate. I'll be right back. Yo, it's Red Queen, Heaven's Legend. What's up, Vesper? That's the Vesper in chat is the Vesper who is currently casting Wing Motif at the end of Phase 4. I don't know what that means because I don't have Pictomancer unlocked. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the rest of this fight. We have finished Phase 4, Eyes. This is the end of the Dragon Song War. If you played Heavensward, this is the end of the story. What else could there possibly be in this ultimate? Well, how about a what if? What if Haurchefant didn't have to die? What if you could save him? You go back to Dorboss. This is probably the reason why you don't have to repeat these temple nights. When I was talking about I bet there's a reason why there was a checkpoint after the temple nights, why there was a Dorboss. I bet in development you did have to play through this again, and they probably went, that is just too much. That's just too much. Yeah, ultimates are already like a what if in general. So now we're back in phase 1, except there's one thing different. We have Limit Break 3. So events start... Oh, hold on. I got the wrong music playing. My mistake. It's my first day on Twitch. I've never done this before. Events start to play out the way that they were before. Except for the one difference. We have Limit Break 3. As soon as Haurchefant shows up with his good old, look out, I'm here to save you, tank Limit Break. Once you've done that, Haurchefant now takes less damage from the spear, I believe. I don't know the exact mechanics of it, because I'm not the tank pressing Limit Break, and I am not a healer. So I don't know the exact mechanics behind the HP recovery down thing going on. But the long story short is you can now heal Haurchefant. You can save him. There's an upside and a downside to this. The upside is you can save the boy. Save him! The downside is he is now shielding this lance the entire time. Damage, 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 damage. It doesn't fucking stop. Damage, damage. You still do everything else the same. It's just you're just constantly taking damage the whole time. But now that we're out of jail, once Pure of Heart has gone off and we're out of jail, damage, damage, damage. The spear is targetable. You can save him. Everyone converges on the Spear of Light and you destroy it. That's it. You saved the boy. He's alive. Thank goodness. Yeah, I did ask at one point in Prague, like, can a white mage just use benediction on that? And my team was just like, yeah. But we stuck with double shields because double shields is broken. So, you know. Oh, I'm sure there's no dire consequence. What a convenient time to say that. So the conceit of the rest of this ultimate is, what if Haurchefant was alive? And I believe the theory on what is happening in this phase in particular is when Haurchefant died, the Warrior of Light was like really pressed, like, we need to go get Thordan now. But since we saved him, we weren't as pressed for vengeance, for time, and we kind of let Thordan do his thing for a while, and we didn't catch up to him, which is a little unfortunate, because now we have King Thordan, except let me get the proper music going. Oh, I need to loop this. Hold on. This is the one track I couldn't find an extended version of for some reason, so I'm just going to right-click loop. This is one of those songs that starts very quiet and ends very loud, so I kind of like kept it low, so I apologize if you can't really hear the music. We've got King Thordan. He's back. He's more powerful than before because he probably achieved his goal of absorbing the Warring Triad or whatever. Now he can control dragons. That's not... How did I... Sorry, I saw it OBS targeted. Highlighted. We just do a little role play here. He revives the dragons. He starts casting Dragon's Eye. He does a couple autos. Then he starts casting Wrath of the Heavens. And this is the reason why I started this whole stream by saying, so I just want to correct myself from 5 years ago and say, actually, I love UCOP now. I gotta find... I should have found this before the stream. I apologize. Here we go. There's a tweet from 2022 that makes me laugh. Minstrel. Then Haurchefant blocked the beam and heroically died. Warrior of Light. Nah, I'd stop it. Minstrel. Well, okay, so then Thordan would absorb both eyes and become unstoppable. Warrior of Light. I'd still win. Minstrel. Exasperated. But he'd have every UCOB mechanic at once. Warrior of Light. I'm built different. We're about to condense a lot of UCOB down into one phase. He's about to cast Wrath of the Heavens. What this is, everyone's going to go away. And then 2 knights and a dragon are going to spawn at 1 cardinal. They're going to spawn in a random cardinal, I'm pretty sure. Not inner cardinal. These 2 knights are going to tether to a random player. The dragon is going to do a dive bomb through the center of the arena. So I don't know why I pointed at the camera, but he's going to come straight. You know what this means, right? This dragon is going to dive straight through the arena. And there's actually one other knight somewhere who's going to target another random player with this dive that we saw in the first time we fought Thordan. These tethers are the dives that we saw in the first phase of Thordan, like the one that just like is just a wide line across the arena. And it is also proximity. So the player, if you are tethered to one of these knights, just go literally directly across the arena from that knight. The person who has the Defamation Dragoon needs to go over here. So if you think of where the knights and the dragon are as the new relative north, the person who has the dragoon goes northwest, like by this marker that is near them, because they're going to get a giant AoE around them, and that is just the most out of the way position. Everyone who is not targeted for anything goes to the east side of the new relative east. A few more things are going to happen. We spread out. 2 people get targeted for lightning. What this is a debuff that in 15 seconds, they're going to emit a lightning AoE around them. So don't be hit by it. Or you're going to wish you were fucking dead, because it's going to give you a damage down. It's going to give you a giant paralysis, and you're basically non-functional for the rest of the fight. There's one more thing in here. It's called Twisting Dive. I'm sorry. Is that the word twist? In a phase that is kind of playing on UCOB? As soon as this dive goes off, get the fuck out of the way. Because behind, I think every player are twisters. And if you're standing in that, you die and you kill anyone around you. Just before that dive went off, 2 more knights dropped down. We have a warrior and a black mage ? I don't know his exact role. Their position is actually critically important. Look for where the warrior is. He's going to be the safe area soon. Meanwhile, I get targeted for a dive bomb. That gets placed behind the black mage. There are 2... My camera angle isn't so great. You can kind of see the tail of the dragon over here behind Drisby and Ashia. There are 2 dragons, I think, on like both relative east and west from where the new relative north was. And they're both going to die. I think both. I think there's 2. I know how this mechanic works. They're going to dive at the dive bomb. And because the warrior is going to be the safe location, I need to point them in the opposite direction. Meanwhile, everyone is being targeted for Ascalon's Mercy. You can't read the full text box because it gets cut off. It's not concealed this time. It's like called revealed, I think. It is the same kind of thing where he lifts a sword and then he puts it in the ground and then everyone gets a cone targeted at them. But this time, you are expected to take the 1 hit. This is why everyone spreads out. Because if anyone is like stacked up on each other, if you get hit by multiple, you die. Meanwhile, 2 people are being targeted. One is being targeted for this giant like fireball marker from the mage, and one of them is the liquid heavens being shot at by the dragons. The the liquid heavens, there's always 5 of them, so you drop 5 puddles away from the warrior. So what I'm thinking of here, let's imagine a world where I'm not being targeted by dive bomb. I think that's just the easiest way to like show my perspective. The knights have dropped down. I've identified the knight, the warrior is here. This is where the safe spot is going to be. Let's again pretend I don't have a dive bomb. I know I'm not being targeted for lightning. We move out of the way of the twister. What I'm going to do as a non-dive bomb is just kind of stand here for a moment. And then once the cones go off, the Ascalon's Mercy, start moving away from the warrior. That way, if you do get targeted for the fireball, for the liquid heavens, you're not dragging it into the safe area with you. But then if it turns out you are not being targeted by those, then you can just go ahead and course correct and move into the safe spot. But then if you are, you're already like out of the fucking way. If you have the liquid heavens, you count 5 puddles, you move it in the safe spot. If you have the giant fireballs, you count 4, and then you move it in the safe spot. The people who have the lightnings, if you remember Nail Phase in Unending Coil of Bahamut, need to make the little Mickey Mouse ears in the little donut safe area during Nails phase, which you can kind of see behind me here. Zap, zap. There's the 2 lightnings going off down here. The rest of us are taking the little bit of this safe spot because there's what the knight is doing is this giant donut around him, and that's why you go to the knight. The warrior. And that's Wrath of the Heavens. King Thordan starts casting Ancient Quagga. This is just a raid wide. You have a little bit of a breathing room as he just does a couple autos. He's going to do another heavenly heal, which again, I'm just going to invuln, which I will complain about later. We're getting there. We're so close to me complaining about the mitigation in this fight. Except this one, we will have a tank swap afterwards. We don't necessarily need the tank swap right now, but we do know that he's going to use Heavenly Heal again after the next major mechanic, and we want the other tank to invuln that one. He's now starting to cast Death of the Heavens. This is probably, at least for us, this was the biggest prog wall that we had. I think if you go back to look at old videos of this, like initial clears of this fight, they understood Doth less than we do now. There are certain, like the strat for this now is very solid. There are things about this phase that can be baited on a specific people that I don't think people knew about for at least a little while. Even then, this mechanic is just difficult. It's just very challenging. Everyone's going to go away. And now a knight is going to drop down. There's knights all around the arena. I think there's like maybe 2 of these guys, or at least 1 guy out here on the edge, and maybe 2 dragons. Or there's some bullshit going on the outside of the arena that you do not care about. The only thing that you care about right now, there is some bullshit on the outside of the arena that you do care about, but right now, the only thing you care about is this guy on the inside. He's going to drop down on either this Alpha, Charlie, 1, or 3 marker. Those are just the 4 spots that he can land on. That is the new relative north. Everyone turns to face him, and you make a conga line, because 4 random people are going to get targeted for Doom. So in this case, Snark, Ashia, Dante, and Haruku all got targeted for Doom. The rest of us did not. Just to help identify who is targeted or lack of targeted for what, everyone who gets Doom steps forward out of the conga line. Everyone who doesn't steps backwards. This doesn't change like who's necessarily doing what. This is just to help visualize who's going where. From here, each Doom and each non-Doom have specific locations they need to go to. I really wish I had my draw tool active for this. I'm so mad that it was crashing OBS. There are 4, 1, 2, 3. There's always going to be 4 of each. 4 dooms, 4 non-dooms. If you have doom, you start looking left to right or right to left, just whatever edge you're closest to. So for example, in this case, let's say I was Snark. I am the furthest left on my side of the dooms. That means I am going to go here next to the A marker. Iruku is going to go up here next to the B marker. Dante is going to go up here next to the D. And Ashia is going to go over here next to the 1. So we're splitting all 4 dooms kind of like to the sides and within like 2 intercards. Yeah, can you lock the fuck in, please? I asked for that macro as a joke at the start of this poll, and we all locked the fuck in and got the clear. So I'm just saying Wakavu's got a point. And I just like that it's visible on screen for literally the entire poll because I have myself set to party chat and not general chat. If it was in general chat, it would eventually get pushed off by all like the roleplay dialogue. Wakavu, love that man. Anyway, the non-dooms are going to follow the same kind of pattern, just sort of in the opposite direction. If you are the leftmost non-doom, you are also going you're going towards the A, but you're going up against the wall and not like where the doom is standing. I, as the second non-doom, am going south west relative. Again, this is the new relative north. I would be going down here in this direction. This non-doom is going in this direction, and this non-doom is going over to the wall by the 1 marker. So we all spread out into our locations. As you're spreading out, this is where you can kind of look for... I mentioned earlier, there is some outside bullshit that you do care about. You can't really see from my perspective, which is unfortunate. But if you remember, Phase 2 Thordan, there's a giant eye outside of the arena behind my party list, and Thordan is over here by the 2 marker. Again, those are giant gazes. Don't look at them. Don't. You're fine to look at them now, but pretty soon it's a big, hard no. So the reason we're spread out like this, as you can see, there's Sir Zephyrin, I think, here is throwing another spear. He's throwing it over this way. That's causing a big line that we can't be in. There's some dragons dodging or dive bombing through the arena. You can't be in those. We're spread out into areas that we know are always safe and will not be hit by any of these giant lines that are about to go off. Also, we're all spread out because everyone is about to get hit by their own personal AoE. Zap. So we all get hit by our own personal AoE. A couple other things are happening, as there always is. There's a warrior here in the middle doing the earthquake nonsense that we saw from the first Thordan phase. My own person. Oh, sorry. The way he just said your and then nothing made me worry that OBS crashed again or something. I don't know. So there's some quakes going off. There is some personal AoEs going off. Hold on. What's this? Is that the word twist in a phase that is inspired by UCOB? That's right, folks. It's another fucking twister. Get the fuck out of the way. So again, there's twisters going off. Twisters are very cosmetic in this phase. As long as you just move as soon as you get hit by the personal AoE, you're fine. Don't worry about it. There is a method to the madness of the big quake that is pulsing out of the middle of the arena. For example, if you're any of these Doom players, as soon as your personal AoE goes off, just move towards the center of the arena and you're done with the quake. If you're one of these non-Dooms, just move a little bit towards the south and then move into it when you see it go. So if you watch me, I go move towards the 3 marker, I see the quake, and then I move up, and that's done. So there's a lot of things in this that are like very just like visually noisy, but once you know how to move, it's a total non-issue. We're not done. So those gazes haven't gone off yet. People are still doomed. There's 4 players who still have 13 seconds to live. And also, we're now also being chained together. If you remember this from the very first phase, we again kind of... where strats have gotten better over time is we've learned that the circles can always be baited. The circles will always go on the 2 furthest players. So what we do is the Doom players who were closest to the A and 1 marker, once your twisters go away, just kind of spread back out in that direction and bait those circles. That means we're always going to get those circles there. And from there, the other 2 Dooms will always either get triangle or square. They will never get X. So since we know where there's always going to be 2 circles, a triangle, and a square, we always have the Dooms anchor on those specific spots. And that's why we positioned the non-Dooms for these so when these personal AoEs go off, all the non-Dooms are dropping these light puddles. If you remember UCOB, Nail Phase, there was the Doom puddles. What needs to happen is all of the Doom players need to get knocked back. Oh, spoilers. We're about to get knocked back from the center of the arena with these chains. We want them to get knocked back in the direction of these Doom puddles so they can go stand in the Doom puddles and cleanse their Doom. So we've kind of already locked in where 4 of these like knockbacks and chains require to be. The other 4 players just adjust accordingly. So the triangle can always go opposite of the triangle Doom. The square can always go opposite of the square Doom. The only one that gets kind of a little bit weird is this X. It's the 2 X's are always going to be on 2 non-Doom players, and you just need to adjust. I got it, and in this case, I was just a little bit more relative south than the other X was, so I just went in ahead and I just positioned myself south. This is when the gaze is going off. The gaze is going off at the same time as the knockback. So as we were... Oh, what did I just do? As we were all positioning for these like personal AoEs, we had someone call out, you can look towards the purple markers because Thordan's over at 2 and the giant eye is over at, what, B? I can't. It's behind my screen. I can't read it. You'd think I know what the way mark. Yeah, I can see A, C, and D is B. I can count to D, folks. You're safe to look at D. So once everyone converges in the center, we bait the circle chains. We clump up around the knight that's about to do the knockback, and you look towards where the gazes are not. You get knocked back, boom, and chains resolve. And then the Dooms go ahead and get in their Dooms, and then also everyone gets a giant personal AoE. So again, you cannot stack all of like one type of a symbol together and just like go to opposite ends of the... And that's it. That's it. We're done Death of the Heavens. Oh, fuck. There's 8 meteors. Kill these as fast as possible. Caster LB, highly recommended. Because LB is just not really... LB is not really required anywhere in the fight, aside from the 1 tank LB to save Horse Font. So your options are to either use Caster LB here, or you can use a Caster LB in the next phase. But since this ultimate is very off patch, and you kind of out damage it a whole lot, there's really no need to hold on to this for the next to beat the next boss. This happens really quick, these meteors, so LB highly recommended. Also, we were just a comp that had like very little cleave naturally. So this is kind of like, if one person dies during the knockback just because like someone was slightly off, they're likely to take out 1 or 2 other people. So this is just like really hard to recover. This is just where we ended up getting walled the hardest. Now it's actually the end of Death of the Heavens. I swear, I promise. It's actually the end. Thordan comes back. He starts casting Ancient Quagga. Again, raid wide. He's going to do another Heavenly Heal. That is again a tank buster. We invuln it. then a lot of us, like me, as I was saying earlier, you're going to see me sometimes just kind of like do fucking nothing. It's because if we kill this guy too fast, some of us aren't going to have the resources we need for the next phase. So I've backed off. I've got my 3 cartridges. I don't need them. Whatever. After the tank buster, he starts to cast Etheric Burst. This is Enrage. If this goes off, we die. But as you can see, once you get him below 3% HP, he goes, oh, I yield. Have mercy, warrior of light. I beg you. You can just fucking kill him here. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. You need to not kill him. For reasons I'll get into. You need to stop. All DPS, all damage. Then he gets up and calls you an idiot for falling for such a classic blunder. And leaves. And now we're into the next phase. This is where the real prog is. If Doth was a wall, getting through P6 was the next really big wall. Whew-wee. So, now we've got double dragons. We've got Nidhogg, and you can't really see because he's behind me, Hraesvelgr. Hraesvelgr has a Neuralink. Is that the thing? The thing around his neck that makes him obey what other people are doing. I don't know. Again, I don't really know the story. The conceit here is, I guess, Nidhogg has enslaved his own brother to help destroy Ishgard because Nidhogg is still fucking pissed at Ishgard. Which actually kind of plays into the mechanics here. How far are we into real time? We are currently 14 minutes, 17 seconds into roughly 22 minutes. But there's only 2 phases. There's this and one final phase. And the final phase is, the final phase of any ultimate is never that complicated. It is usually more of a victory lap. There's going to be very little to talk about in that phase other than just how cool it is. Anyway, there is actually mechanical narrative going on here. Hraesvelgr does not want to... Sorry, yeah, 14 minutes because I'm counting door boss. Hraesvelgr has a vow with Shiva to not harm another person. But now he's being possessed by Nidhogg to help Nidhogg destroy Ishgard. If, for whatever reason, any attack from Hraesvelgr in this phase kill a player, Hraesvelgr will fly into a rage, and from there on out, every single attack he does will kill somebody. So you need to not die to Hraesvelgr. I said generally, not every final phase is a victory lap. I don't even really think like Uwu is much of a victory lap because you still have to do like Primal Roulette. Like, it's just generally, sorta. At least compared to the things before it, kinda. Anyway. Nidhogg also has like a fake enrage, which we'll get into as it comes up. I take control of Nidhogg. My co-tank takes control of Hraesvelgr. Everyone else, I keep accidentally clicking on OBS and turning on my be right back. We're being right back right now. Let's go. We get a couple of auto attacks. Both great worms start casting Dread Worm's Breath. My camera is about to whip around away from the party because I need to see where I'm going. But I'll explain what's happening to the party in a second. The first thing I'm looking at here is I'm looking at Nidhogg's mouth. So there's a big donut around the arena that just constricts the available space they have. That's all it really does. Nidhogg's mouth is not glowing. Therefore, I am about to be hit by a tank buster. If I were to look behind me, Hraesvelgr's mouth would be glowing. What that means is he is about to shoot a giant cone through the middle of the arena. So the tanks need to move north to get out of this cone. The party needs to move south to get out of this cone. There is a chance there would be no cone. So there's the alternate scenario here where Nidhogg's mouth is glowing and Hraesvelgr's mouth is not. Therefore, Nidhogg is shooting the cone and the co-tank is getting tank bustered instead. That seems pretty self-explanatory. There is also a third possibility where both dragons have a glowing mouth, You would think this mean both of them are shooting a cone, but no, it means both tanks are being tank bustered for some reason. And both tanks need to stack together and share the tank buster. There's like some debuff that gets applied that gets cleansed by both of them. It's very easy to just stand together, and that's literally never a thing. Anyway, I'm moving out of the way to not hit the entire rest of the party with this giant tank buster I'm about to get hit by. But as we turn back around, all the non-tanks are also being tethered to both dragons. 3 of them are being tethered to Hraesvelgr. 3 of them are being tethered to Nidhogg. The Hraesvelgr ones are ice tethers. The Nidhogg ones are fire tethers. You can see one of them, Dante, is still a little too close to the boss. So if he were to take this tether where it is currently situated, the tethers do less damage if you're further away. That's what that symbol means. So there we go. Now he's locked it into place. What happens with the tethers is this is indicating that, for example, Nidhogg is hitting Dante with a fire cone. It's a fairly thin cone, but he's hitting with a fire cone. And if that was all that was happening, Dante would then get a debuff called, I think, Boiling, that on its own does nothing. But once that debuff expires, he would then receive Pyretic. Pyretic is the debuff, the fire debuff that says, if you take any action, you die. Likewise, with Hraesvelgr, he's shooting an ice cone at someone. If a player were to only take an ice cone and nothing else, they would get a debuff called, I think, Freezing, which on its own, again, does nothing, but it becomes Deep Freeze, and the player becomes frozen for X amount of time and can't do anything. What you need to do is have one of each tether point at each other, because if a person with fire has the boiling debuff and they get hit by the ice tether, it cleanses it. So like both of them are canceling each other out. So I'm getting hit by the giant the giant tank buster. Everyone else is getting hit by 2 cones. That's all resolved. We collapse back into the center. Well, we don't all collapse back in the center. The tanks do, and the healers are kind of safe too. The DPS need to spread the fuck out. Because, Nidhogg, if you remember what I said earlier, Hraesvelgr has a mechanic where if you die to him, he flies into wind and rage and kills everybody. This is Nidhogg's. If you've ever had to deal with Allagan Rot, if you've ever had to deal with, what is it, like Chain Lightning in E5S, kinda, we're placing a debuff on someone that is now going to need to be passed throughout the party at certain times. So Vesper is the one that got hit by this debuff. She has 30 seconds here. In 30 seconds, as you can see, when this hits Vesper, boom, it's like an AoE. If multiple people are in this AoE, yeah, you're pretty much fucked up, and it's pretty much a wipe. I think if you're in that AoE, you get like suppuration, which means like you receive way less healing and your maximum HP goes down. So don't be in it. Unless you're passing it later. As long as you have the Mortal Vow debuff, I believe you also just receive less healing. Or no, you output less healing. And also you take damage over time. So this can never go on a healer. Because if this goes on a healer, they now just heal the party for way less. And you're basically fucked. So what we're going to be doing throughout the rest of this fight is pass it to the tanks, because they just have a lot of HP to work with. And then pass it to a couple DPS until it wears off. But for now, it's just there. That's a problem for later. If we fuck it up and we drop it, Nidhogg flies into an enrage and kills everybody. Akafa. If you have done Epic of Alexander, you may be familiar with Hand of Pain. What this means, Akafa. Once Akafa goes off, both bosses need to be within 3% HP of each other. If they are more than that, you all die. The tether between them right now means Nidhogg has more HP. This is just a visual indicator to help you tell who has more HP. If there's a purple tether, Nidhogg has more HP. If there's no tether, you're doing good. Keep it cozy. If it's a white tether, Hraesvelgr has more HP. Also, this is also an attack that is being targeted at, I believe, both healers, and it is a shared damage thing, so you need to split up into 2 light parties. So Akafog goes off. Boosh. Everyone looks at Hrae. Because Nidhogg goes away. Nidhogg becomes untargetable for a while. Nidhogg is either going to cleave the west half of the arena or the east half of the arena. It is always half. In this case, he's cleaving the half that Hraesvelgr is not on. He's cleaving the west half. So the Nidhogg side, or the Hraesvelgr side of the arena is safe. Additionally, Hraesvelgr is casting Hallowed Wings. The side where his wings is glowing is not safe. Again, that is always half. So we've now condensed the available space of the arena to 1/4. We cannot be in the south half of the arena because the wings are going off, and we cannot be in the west half of the arena because the Nidhogg cauterized dive is going to go off. So we all have to bunch up in this northeast quadrant. Additionally, depending on whether Hraesvelgr's head is down or up, indicates where the party needs to stand. This is down. If it was up, it would be very clear. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any up in this fight, which is funny because he's like, oh, like really high up there. It's like he's like raising the roof. I don't think we're gonna get to see that in this VOD. But what that means is because his head is down, the 2 closest people to him are gonna get hit by tank busters. So that's convenient. We have 2 tanks. So the 2 tanks just go really close to him. The rest of the party stands outside of his hitbox in our available space. Mechanic solved. We head back towards middle, and this is where the first rot pass happens. The rot passes tend to happen after every major mechanic. So Vesper comes to me because I'm going to be receiving the first pass. Boof. I have now received the Mortal Vow. Nidhogg is targetable again. Hraesvelgr is about to leave. Nidhogg is now casting Wrath Flames. This is the last, like... There's one other kind of wall after this. This is, like, the last, like, really big wall. And then there's one, like, hurdle after this. Wrath Flames is kind of meaty, though. So, a couple things are going on here. This is where I'm going to finally complain about mitigation, too, by the way. I just wanted to point out, you may see all of these markers show up. I'm going to be fully honest. This is auto marker. This is a third-party plugin. I will address this. I will address, like, why we're choosing to use it, what purpose it's serving. I just want to explain the mechanic first. So, Wrathflames is starting. Hraesvelgr leaves. Hraesvelgr is going to do a dive through 1/3 of the arena, not half. Hraesvelgr, as you can see, is now due south. He's either going to dive through the middle row, the row on Nidhogg, or the row on the opposite end of the arena. The only thing we really care is whether or not he is diving through Nidhogg. Because that dictates either we get uptime on Nidhogg or we have to fuck off onto the other side of the arena. In this case, Nidhogg's row is safe. We can move into Nidhogg. Also, we've got the fireballs appearing. When these fireballs go off, they're going to explode in a cross pattern. If you remember, like Nidhogg Extreme. I think even Nidhogg Normal has these. 3 sets of these are going to appear. The first set is always in the dead center of the arena. The other 2 are going to be in opposite corners. So it could either be it could be like at the 2 marker. So it would be south, west, and northeast. Or it can be northwest and southeast. It'll never be like both of them on the west side or both of them on the east side. So since we know Nidhogg is now uptime, as we call it, we start moving into Nidhogg. And Also, I do want to apologize. My camera is going to be spinning around a lot for probably the next 30 seconds because there's a lot of information you need to take in for this mechanic. Because I'm looking for where the next set of fireballs are showing up. In this case, I saw it just out of the corner of my eye. It showed up at D. So we want to move not to the south end. We want to move north towards this floor. We've now indicated where our starting spot is. And there will be a third set of fireballs directly on top of us. We don't particularly care where the third set is appearing because we're doing, if you've heard the term 3-to-1 dodge before, we're just, these fireballs are going to go off in the order they appeared. So first, the first set is going to explode in a cross. Then the second set is going to explode in a cross. Then the third set is going to explode in a cross. So we're just trying to put ourselves in the one that is going to explode the last, the final. And then before that explodes, just move into the one that has already exploded. We all group up on the edge of Nidhogg's hitbox. Mitigate. Heavy mitigation. This is the main reason you bring a double shield comp, is for this. We're about to get hit by 4 puddles. So, boosh. 2. When the second one goes off, we need to wait a second for that first cross to go off. Move out. If you stay in any of these puddles, you get a giant bleed and you die. If anyone dies in this... Oh my... All right, fine. I'll get to it. Carry these puddles around, get out of all of these fireballs that are going off, and then also figure out if hot tail or hot wing is occurring. If it is hot tail, that means Nidhogg is about to hit a line straight through from west to east. If it is hot wing, that means his wings are hitting west to east. So in this case, hot tail, we need to continue moving towards the south to get out of the tail attack that is hitting the middle of the arena. If it was hot wing, we would stay in the middle of the arena. This is where auto marker comes in. At the start of this mechanic, we 6 of us received debuffs. So if you watch our debuff bar here, 4 people received a red debuff and 2 people received a white debuff. The 4 people who have a red debuff have a personal AoE that no other person can get hit by. It is so spread out. The people who have a white debuff have a personal AoE that needs to be shared by at least one other person. In this case, it is the people that have no debuff, in which case nothing is happening to them. This is what we're using auto marker for. So all of the people who have spread markers, like the red ones, get indicated with like these yellow numbers. The people who have a and also one person who has a white marker gets a chain. One person who has a white marker gets a red, and then the people who have nothing also get a marker to say go stack. Like if you're a nothing marker and you get a chain, go stack with the chain. So let's watch that go off. So as a number, I'm going to continue moving south. The stacks move into Hraesvelgr, and the spreads move into Nidhogg. You don't necessarily have to do it that way. You could flip it around if you really want. That is just the organization that we chose to do behind it. So I'm going to continue moving out of the hot tail, and as I spread, I'm spreading out from the other 4 numbers. So we got our spreads. Off to the right, those people got their stacks. I want to briefly discuss auto marker. The reason we chose to use it is not actually because we felt we needed it for this. It's because this static came together really late into 7.25, whatever, really close to 7.3. And our expectation is a new ultimate was going to come out in 7.3. And several of the people who joined us for this, we expected them to have prior obligations to leave and go do the new ultimate when that comes out. So as far as we knew, we were on a deadline to beat this before 7.3. And in case we didn't, we opted to do what Party Finder does. So that means we are using Party Finder strats. We are using NAUR strats, North American Ultimate Rating Scene, I think is what it's called. We are using NOR mitigation sheets, which is the big complaint that I'll get into in a hot second. And we are using auto marker because that is what is expected from Party Finder. That is why we've chosen to do this. We do not need this. I think ultimately I would have preferred to do it without this, just because, you know, the purity of the sport, whatever. But we have proven we don't actually need this. If you want, after you're done watching this, go to my Twitch page, twitch.tv/cowbox. I have a clip of us doing this without automarker because plugins were broken for a couple of days after 7.3 came out. You know, we can do this without automarker, but we did it with. I think the interesting thing about this, and the reason why PF chooses to use automarker, I don't think it actually really adds anything to this. The only thing that you really need to know is who has the stack debuff. Because if you think about like earlier in the fight, if you had like the Dragoon dives in phase 2 Thordan, you have a symbol above your head. What if you're being targeted for lightning in UCOP? You get like a giant lightning strike happen on you. Like, there are so many parts of this fight that already have visual indicators to it. Let me paint you this hypothetical scenario. You start Wrath Flames. You have no debuff. So that means you need to stack with someone. Wrath Flame starts. You move to Nidhogg. You dodge out of the bleed puddles. You dodge out of the fireball cones. Not cones. Crosses. You turn towards Hraesvelgr. You see someone standing in Hraesvelgr already. Are they someone who has a stack debuff, or are they someone who has a no stack? Are you expected to stack with them or not? If the people who had like the stack debuff had just like a small visual indicator on them, I don't think Party Finder would use automarker for this. That's really the only kind of like weirdness to this. Anyway, when we did this without automarker, all we did was, you can see it on my hotbar right here. We have a macro. If you have the white debuff, press this button, it marks you with a marker. So that way people know that you're a stack or you're not. And that's really, because like the people who have spread just don't stand near anyone. Anyway, that's why we choose to use automarker. We don't need it. It's not a big deal. In fact, you could argue using Party Finder strats made this fight harder because we had to use their god-awful mitigation sheet. You heard me complaining about all the times we used invuln on just like the stupid heavenly heal when we could have like used invuln on soul tether, which would have been way more convenient. Because heavenly heal is not... Just don't point it at the party. Who gives a shit? Use some mitigation and don't point it at the party. Meanwhile, both tanks and soul tether need to run around with their heads cut off looking for the fucking tethers, and then as quickly as possible point it away from everybody, including the other tanks. If both tanks just had their invuln available for that, just grab whatever tether, go stand in the middle. Who gives a shit? The tanks can't kill each other anymore. Anyway, their mitigation shit was really bad. And it's missing a lot of things. Like, as a gunbreaker, it doesn't list Aurora anywhere. You know, what's the deal with that? Let me use Aurora somewhere. I do use Aurora in some places. Anyway, you be the judge on if this clear is valid or not, I guess. You at home, go to my Twitch. We've done it without automarker. I'm a little self-conscious. Bite me. Rot Flames is now over. And what happens between major mechanics? Rot pass. I now pass it to the other tank. I'm spinning the camera around wildly because it is another Akafa, and I just want to be confident that both bosses are within 3% HP of each other. Akafa. Look towards Hraesvelgr again. It's going to be another Hallowed Wing. Oh, he does. Oh, he rose his head in the air. Let's go. So this is very similar to the last Hallowed Wings, except this time Nidhogg isn't doing a dive. If you remember, Nidhogg was doing a dive through one half of the arena. Meanwhile, Hraesvelgr is cleaving half of the arena. This time, Nidhogg is either going to do Hot Tail or Hot Wing again. So looking at Hraesvelgr, I know the north side of the arena is not safe. So we all need to go to the south side. Meanwhile, as tank, I know I need to be one of the two furthest away players from Hraesvelgr because Hraesvelgr is raising his head in the air. That means he's targeting the two furthest players with tank busters. So I need to go to into Nidhogg. And as I'm moving into Nidhogg, Nidhogg starts casting Hot Tail or Hot Wing. In this case, it's Tail, so we all need to move out of the middle of the arena. And then that's it. That's Hallowed Wing 2. Boosh. The tanks get hit by tank busters. The Hot Tail goes off. The Hallowed Wing Cleave goes off. And what happens after every major mechanic? That's right. Solemn Vow again. It gets past in middle. This time it gets past to a DPS because both tanks... As you can see, I now have a debuff on me. That says 1 minute. This essentially says... I don't know if it mechanically means I am physically incapable of picking up the vow again, or it will kill me if I grab it. Either way, I can't stand in it. We are now heading into Worm's Breath 2. This is literally the same mechanic it was the first time around, but with a catch. But the catch isn't apparent in this version as this is immediately happening. So again, we want to resolve this by like 3 people are getting hit by fire cone, 3 people are getting hit by an ice cone, and there are 2 tank busters going off. Except for a reason I'll get into in a sec. This time we don't want fire and ice to cancel each other out. So I'm looking at Nidhogg. Nidhogg has a glowing mouth. That means either he's about to shoot a cone or he's about to shoot a shared tank buster. So I'm flipping my camera around. Hraesvelgr's mouth is not glowing. That means Hraesvelgr is doing a tank buster. Nidhogg is not. So that means there's a cone going through the middle of the arena. So I need to move the fuck out of the way. So the tank buster on the other side of the arena is going off. All the cones are going off. Except this time, everyone is positioned in such a way that nobody is getting hit by anything extra. Everyone is just taking their cone. So as you can see, all of the healers and DPS have like debuffs on them that they didn't have the first time around. So pretty soon we need to deal with Deep Freeze and Paretic. Both dragons are about to leave. Both of them appear on the north side of the arena. Yes, this is the north side of the arena. Everyone who has the Deep Freeze coming up needs to go stand in front of Nidhogg, because Nidhogg is about to do a fire dive. Everyone who had the potential Paretic debuff needs to go stand in front of Hraesvelgr, because Hraesvelgr is about to do an ice dive bomb. And that will cleanse those debuffs. Meanwhile, the tanks need to stand in front of the rest of the party, because this is also you may know the term wild charge. The person who is in front of this dive is going to take the most damage. And then the people who are behind the tank are going to take less damage. This is where mitigation is really pushed to its breaking point in this phase. It's like, as you can see at the start of Worm's Breath 2, like, I'm pressing Rampart right away. And then even though I'm not getting a tank buster in this particular configuration, I'm pressing Nebula right now. Because I want both of them to be like up. If I were to tank a tank buster here and still be up for the dive that's about to happen. And the only reason they're even up in time to do this is because, like, at the very start of the phase, I apologize. I'm a tank. I just got to talk about mitigation, you know? I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 GCDs, and I'm pressing Nebula. Worm's Breath hasn't even started yet. I'm pressing Nebula. Because if I'm taking a tank buster here, which in this case I want Nebula to be up for it. But also, I need Nebula to come off cooldown in time for this Worm's Breath 2. And then I'm like also doing the same with Rampart here. As soon as this Akafa lands, I'm using Rampart, even though I'm not taking Tank Buster for like another like 10 seconds. Because I need both of these to come back in time for this. So the tanks are standing in front of these. Also, from what I understand, healer mitigation is also just being pushed to a breaking point here. This was our last like really big wall. We just kept having like someone die to these cauterized dives, whether it be because like the Dark Knight just didn't have the MP for TBN, Blackest Night, whether it just be because the Scholar was just like short 1 Aether Flow for Sacred Soil, because these cauterized dives do a fuckload of damage. So let's see. I've got Rampart, Nebula. I'm gonna have Heart of Corundum up. I've got some form of shields up. I've got Sacred Soil up. We've also got Caracol up from the Sage. How much damage am I about to take? About half my health. That's a lot of mitigation, though. So that cleanses the Paretic and the Deep Freeze off the... As you can see, like, everyone who is on this fireside is literally frozen. If any of these people who are on the fireside, if they touch their keyboard at all, they just die instantly. They need to wait for these dives to go off. That cleanses all the debuffs. What happens after every major mechanic, folks? One more Rot Pass. Not quite yet. Both dragons are about to do touchdown. This is just a big raid wide. Everyone gets off the wall. There's one more Rot Pass happening. And then this is where Enrage is. Revenge of the Horde is just the Enrage on both. Oof. Ooh. And then they both die. And we're almost done. That is the end of Dragon's Phase. Again, Estinian shows up as Nidhogg. Both the eyes possessing him. There's actually something really interesting things I forgot to talk about. So, during the rewind phase, like the phase where we go back in time and go, what if you could save Haurchefant? If you don't, for whatever reason, either just because you mistime tank LB, or the healers weren't on point, or you don't kill the spear, and Haurchefant dies, you just start phase 2 Thordan again. It just loops. You could just loop that over and over if you wanted. Just like keep like, what if you could save Haurchefant? And then you don't. And then you like go forward through to the eyes phase, beat the eyes, go back in time again, fail to save Haurchefant, go through phase 2 and the eyes again. And you can just do that as much as you want. There are some videos on YouTube of people like doing loops, and that's really funny. The reason I bring this up is because something I forgot to point out, I'll say towards the start of this phase, I apologize for the flickering. You may be able to see back here, Haurchefant is still alive. He's still fighting dragons. Shiva is also still alive. Because you weren't like rushing to Ozzy's Law to get Thordan. She didn't have to sacrifice herself. Both of them are still here. This is still a timeline where Estinian got possessed by Nidhogg, though. So Estinian's here, and he's possessed by Nidhogg, and the eyes are here. So, uh-oh, gamers. We are not going to receive any buffs to kill these eyes. If these eyes, like, resurrect again, we have no way of killing them. We can't damage them, and we'll just die to eyes. So what do? We did one thing in this timeline, different than the normal timeline. Thordan shows up. He's got one last thing on his mind. He's gonna absorb both the dragon eyes. Well, I mean, hey, that means we don't have to worry about killing the eyes. He's morphing. When he dropped down, he puts a heavy bleed on everybody. God, man, that bleed fucking ticks, man. We toss up some mitigation. We put up some shields once the bleed falls off because... Boosh! Giant raid wide. And we're into the final phase. Dragon King Thordan. There's technically only really like 5 mechanics. 3 mechanics that are just like big on their own mechanics, and 2 things that just like happen interspersed throughout the rest of the phase. The first thing that's going to happen is Exaflare's Edge. You may be familiar with the concept of an Exaflare. These usually appear at the edge of an arena, and then like, if it was like, let's say an Exaflare here over at the 2 marker, and it was pointed in towards the center of the arena, it would explode at the 2, then it would explode between the two in the middle, then it would explode in the middle, and it would just like slowly explode its way across the arena. These ones have 3 arrows. These ones are going to explode where they are currently situated, and then also in each of those listed directions. So for example, this one here to my left at the C is going to explode here. Then it is also going to explode above it, and to the right of it, and to the left of it. And then each of those are also going to continue traveling in those directions. Meanwhile, those other 2 X flares edges are going to explode. There's a lot of X flares going off. So like 3 are going to explode now, and then 9, and then 9, and then 9. As this is happening, Thordan's swords are also glowing. In this case, they're either going to be fire or they're going to be ice. All this means is you either need to be inside of his hitbox or outside of his hitbox. If they're ice, you start inside of his hitbox. And that's it. That's all that means. So like once it's going to go off at the same time the first exit flare goes off. So once that first exit flare goes off, this is no longer a consideration. There is a trick to dodging these triple exit flares. The most important thing is there are lines on the floor. There are lines on the floor. There's a pattern on the floor where there's like these 2 small diamonds. Like, okay, if you look to the east and west, there's like a giant blue diamond. If you look in the middle, there's a giant blue diamond. If you look north and south, there's actually a set of, you'll see the camera when I point it more towards south. Instead of like 1 big diamond, 2 smaller ones. This point between them is critically important. As long as you keep Thordan always pointed directly north or directly south, these exiflares are always going to show up to his front left, to his front right, and directly behind him. By always keeping him pointed directly north or directly south, we can always use the exiflare on his butt to do a really safe dodge. I say really within the conceit of an ultimate. It's kind of tight, but if you know what to look for, it's doable. So we're all going to position in his hitbox, close to the exiflare on his butt. I'm looking at this glowing point in the direct center of this exiflare. As soon as this exiflare goes off, I'm moving there to where that point was glowing. So, boom, 1 exit goes off. We all converge on this point. This is, no matter what configuration those triple X's are pointing, they could be pointed in any fucking direction. This point will always be safe. This set of X's go off. We all move to where those 2 diamonds meet. This will always be safe from the 3rd set of X's. We all move back to where the hitbox... I think you can just stay at that point, but those of us who have melee attacks that we want to use, move back to his hitbox. That is now always safe from the 4th hit, and once the 4th goes off, exit is no longer a consideration. That being said, once the 4th goes off, 3 people need to move as fast as fucking possible. He's about to start doing auto attacks. This is another mechanic that is going to happen intermittently throughout the fight. He has 3 swords. He has like Godthing Cordan. God King Thordan is so fucking cool. He's dual wielding swords, and he also has a sword in his tail mouth. Whenever he does an auto attack, he's always going to hit 3 players. He's going to hit the highest in aggro. He's going to hit the 2nd highest in aggro. Hopefully, these are the tanks. If they aren't, you fucked up. He's also going to hit the closest player to him. And the easiest way to make sure someone is the closest player to him is park directly under him. All of these AoEs are also minor cleaves. So, boosh. Me and the other tank and the person in the middle all get hit by these small AoEs. As the main tank, I am being hit by a dark element sword. the Kotank is being hit by a light element sword, and every time you get hit by the same element, your vulnerability to that element goes up. So this first sword kind of chunks, but not really. I have mitigated this, but because I've been hit by a dark element sword, that means the second hit of this is going to do even more damage. Ooh. This vulnerability lasts for a while. These autos always come out in sets of 2s. So the easiest thing to do is, once you've taken 2 autos, tank swap. The problems herein lie in the fact that Shirk is on, what, a 2-minute cooldown? I'm a tank main and I don't even fucking know when Shirk comes back. It's definitely not up enough times for it to matter in this phase. I never press Shirk in this phase, as much as I would love to. The way we kind of handle these tank swaps is, once you've gotten hit by 2 autos, if you were the main tank, drop stance. If you were the off tank, put your stance on. And then next time you see a cast bar, provoke him. The main reason you're waiting for a cast bar, again, we're trying to keep this boy pointed as directly north and as directly south as possible. So that way we always know where the upcoming mechanic is coming, and we always know where the exit flares are going to be. The middle auto, the closest to him auto, doesn't just apply one vulnerability. So as you can see, Dante, our samurai, is going in first. So if you watch him in our party list here, he gets 3 vulnerabilities. He gets vulnerability to light, dark, and physical. If he takes another auto, he dies. So while us tanks are constantly swapping between like these 2 like highest and aggro autos, first we're doing, if you remember all the way back in phase 2, aka the first Thordan phase, where we split into like group 1 and group 2 for like the Dark Knight, group 1 melee goes in first, then group 2 melee, then group 1 ranged, then group 2 ranged, then group 1 healer, then group 2 healer, because these vulnerabilities last some time. I think they technically fall off quickly enough that you can like make some really weird adjustments, but just for the sake of organization, the tanks could never take that closest one, because in order for them to take the closest one, they need to be the not highest in aggro, and if you're not the highest in aggro, you fucked up. So the rest of the party is dealing with that nonsense. So that was 1 auto, 2 autos. There's always 2 autos, and then a mechanic is going to happen. We're going into the next major mechanic. Akmorn's Edge. He's going to create 3 towers. And again, his swords are going to either be glowing ice or fire. And again, the only thing the swords mean is be inside his hitbox or outside his hitbox. In this case, we want to be outside. These towers, if you've done UCOB, these are towers that need to be shared. Well, I mean, it's an Akmorn. It's an Akmorn. If you've done like E8S, you know, he's about to hit these 3 spots multiple times. So in this case, he's going to hit it 5 times. The next time he does Akmorn's Edge, he's going to hit those spots 6 times. The next time he hits these spots, he's going to hit them 7 times. It's an Akmorn. The important things, the reason why we pushed our mitigation to the absolute breaking point in phase 6 with the cauterize, and now I had to take like a small tangent to say like, here's how early I'm pressing Rampart to be sure it's back up in time for cauterize, is because we were able to smuggle our invulns into this phase. And that's going to make this a lot comfier. Because what is probably intended is group 1 takes this tower. Sorry, group 1 minus tanks takes this tower. Group 2 minus tanks takes this tower. And group tanks takes this tower. The butt tower is coded to only share damage among 2 players. So this is just the tower that tanks always go to. The damage among these Akmorns is spread among the number of players within these towers. So we're about to get hit 5 times, spread among the players within these towers. We're not invulning this first set because this is the set that has 5 hits. This is the weakest of the 3. Let's save our invulns for the real motherfuckers. 4, 5. Akmorn's Edge is done. He's about to start doing autos again. He's going to whip around and face the tanks because the tanks are the highest in aggro, but we're due south. That's fine. As long as we're pointing him due south or due north, we're fine. 1, you can see the range doing their auto swaps in the middle. 2, that was 2 autos. That was a melee LB3. 1, we got it. We didn't need it for dragons, whatever. We're going into the final real mechanic, Giga Flare's Edge. And again, he's doing ice or fire swords, be inside or outside his hitbox as needed. Giga Flare is going to put down 3 proximity markers. One's going to appear, another one's going to appear, and then that third one's going to appear. Start on the opposite side of the first one. Once that goes off, move to the opposite side of the second one, and then move to the side. Just rotate around. When it's ice, Giga Flare, that's when it's like really tough because like these proximities for Giga Flare actually have like a ridiculous proximity drop off. If you're like as far in as like the point on this diamond here, that proximity will probably kill you. But we need to be inside his hitbox to deal with like the ice swords. So we need to be like inside his hitbox, but like right at the edge of his hitbox. So that proximity is going to fuck us up. But once that goes off, we're going to all rotate to the left. And that's going to be that mechanic. And 3. The tanks are going to keep rotating because, again, we're trying to keep this boy pointed to the north and south as much as possible. We've swapped who's number 1 and number 2 in aggro because he takes a while after Giga Flare. Auto, and then another auto. And again, the people inside taking the closest to him auto. And from there, it just repeats. It's another X of Flare's Edge with another in or out. It'll be another 2 autos. It'll be another Akmorn Edge with another 2 autos. It'll be another Giga Flare with another 2 autos. It'll be another Axa. It's going to repeat 3 times except for the final Giga. And this is where we smuggled our invulns into. Because we have our invulns, because we saved them in P6, what we can now do is when we get to the second Akmorn, the one that has 6 hits, we can have 1 tank stand in the south tower, the tower that like does the most damage, and just use their invulnerability. I'm going to go up first. Meanwhile, our Dark Knight is going into this tower, and he's just going to every mitigation he has, Dark Mind, Shadow Wall, Rampart, Reprisal. Actually, I'm the one using Reprisal here. Blackest Night. He's just everything. And he's going to take very little damage. And then, meanwhile, the rest of the party is going to all stack up in the same tower. And because there are more people in that tower, that damage is now, like, spread even more among more people. So, like, overall, they take less damage. With another in or out because it's fire swords. Then he's going to whip around. Again, keep this good boy pointed directly north or south. Got another 2 autos. And then it's going to be Giga. This time it's out. Thank God. If you watch my clear video, I panicked here and I didn't actually know which way to turn because I wasn't paying attention. Someone calls it out. Thankfully, I go to the right as needed. Man, the final phase shakies are real. You're just like, you get really in your head. Keep this boy rotating. The tanks keep moving because they got some autos coming up. Auto. Another auto. Into a third X of Flare. Dodge the same way we've dodged the other ones. Because we pointed him directly north or south, that means we've got the floor indicators on his butt. We move in. Move to the point on the diamond. Move back. Spread out for autos. And we go into the final Akmorn. There is no Giga after this. This is the Akmorn where the Dark Knight goes into the back tower and gives it Living Dead. I fat finger my mitigation here and try to press Heart of Light instead of Reprisal, but we're good. I get it off eventually, but it does mean I drift my GCD a little bit. And then if he were to live a little while longer, he would do his enrage sequence, which is another set of 3 towers, which those towers kill people on the spot. But we didn't have to do it because we killed him. And that... Did I dredge up victory fanfare? I don't think I have victory fanfare. Hold on. XIV extended. Victory fanfare. It's important. It's critically important to me. How loud is this going to be? Yay! That's Dragon Song's reprisal. I'm actually kind of... I need to quickly look up how long the other ones took me to explain. So I was like... I went into this thinking like... Oh, it's going to be like an hour and a half, maybe. Let me see. UCob. Okay, let me start. T. How long did T take me to explain? An hour and a half. How long did Yuwu take me to explain? An hour and 20 minutes. What about you, Cobb? Jesus Christ. All the other ones took me like an hour and a half to explain. This one took me like 3 hours. Maybe that's just because I had more to say. And I'm just like being slower and having a good time about it. I don't know. Now, granted, I did have technical difficulties and need to restart a couple times. I'm gonna need to splice all these together in post. But that's that is Dragon Song Survival's Ultimate. And that is how I got. Let me just quiet this down and where's the video source? Put that away. That's how I got this crazy weapon. Do I have any game audio going on? Not really. It's really quiet in this location at this point. Whew. Folks, thank you for joining me once again on another grand explaining ultimate for no reason adventure other than just like, again, if someone actually cared like about what all the mechanics were and they wanted to do this fight themselves, you could just go watch a guide. There's lots of great guides out there. I watched several guides in preparation to beat this fight. I just wanted to have a good time sitting with friends and talk about the stupid fight that I did. For the people who have like no interest in doing it themselves and are just curious what the hell's going on in the fight. It was my 3-month special interest of beating this fight. And, you know, we still got a couple more, next weekend, Friday and Saturday. I'll probably stream them because, we're going to go in again, try to get some more re-clears, try to get some more totems. I mean, we just spent all this time trying to beat this fight once. Might as well stick together while we all know the fight and get a couple more totems, you know? But for now, holy shit. I meant to eat food like an hour ago because I didn't think this was going to take so long. I'm going to bop off and get some dinner. Thank you for keeping me company while I just prattle on for no good reason. I'll catch you guys another time. Friday for re-clears and ranking of MMOs. Hopefully. I'll see you then.